All right, good morning, everybody. We are live on a Monday to kick off your week. It is brutally cold outside. Just take note when you go outside. Hello to everybody on 1620 The Zone, the app, the streamers, the Zone TVers. Good morning, boys. Haven't seen you in a year.
Yeah.
It's been 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that.
So
now we are back.
We are back. So I kind of had to learn my drive into work again this morning.
Wow.
I haven't, because
It's been a
the
while.
year started, and I went to a place where they have two seasons, winter and July 4th, up in the North Dakotas.
Can confirm.
And I almost had to plug in the address for the radio station to find my way in here this morning.
Is it embarrassing I'm still plugging in the radio station address 4 days into living here in Omaha, or do I get a little bit of a week exemption? I mean, to be fair, it's really not that difficult for me to get to work, but
what do you have,
I just,
like two streets?
No,
take
I got
Dodge in?
Stoplights.
I just dodge the street that I live off of right into Dodge, and I take a right. But there's this weird. I'm going to be honest with you, Omaha, and I'm not dinking it. I'm not dinking it at all. I'm not critiquing it. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just the streets are they're a little wonky. They're a little different. They're a little curvy. They're a little left to righty. They're a little, oh, this is a street, now it's a different street. Oh, we're going here, now there's a one way. It changes. It's very fluid. It's a very fluid street system.
Now, wouldn't your time in Lincoln prepare you for this?
I lived off of O and like Salt Creek. Like I was on two streets. You know what I'm saying? Like I took Salt Creek to where I was going to like 27th or wherever, and I would take O down to where I was going. Like I didn't really like navigate the streets of Lincoln because I didn't need to go I needed to go like 5 places.
Yeah.
This is a little different.
So you never had the trouble in Lincoln of the one-way streets?
Oh, I turned like downtown. Like I turned multiple times. I've turned wrong into a one-way. Yes, I've had that trouble. But here's a little different. You go from big streets to all of a sudden you're in like Chicago, like really small areas all of a sudden. And it just hit I'm just not used to it. I'm getting used to it. Also, too, the whole when you're going down Dodge, how there's that like yellow lane there. There's the yellow dotted lane.
You got the green and the red.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, I feel like it could be dangerous at times. I feel like if we were at night and there was, some impaired individuals, I feel like that would be something that would be very easy to mess up.
At night,
it's a little. I don't know. I don't go in that third lane, even when it's lit up green. I don't go there. It's not something I mess with.
Have you touched the third rail and turned left off of Dodge?
No,
that's
I haven't yet.
That's when you've arrived.
That's when if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. I will let you know if that happens.
But no one ever tells you that. Like when I moved to Omaha,
same.
I was like, you can't turn left off of Dodge, and they're like, no, you can't. And I'm like, like when you move in and you're new to Omaha, they don't put that in your box of goodies. They don't say, hey, a couple of things. If you don't want to stick out like a sore thumb, don't turn left on Dodge. Now, I've lived here long enough. I just turned left on Dodge. Take that, Dodge.
Are you not supposed to, or is it like a law that you're not supposed to turn left on Dodge?
Well, technically, Jimmy, is it a law? Technically,
I think it is
to turn left off of Dodge.
Yeah.
Off of Dodge.
Yeah.
So I can't turn if I'm going on Dodge. I can't turn left onto another street.
Correct.
So for example, like this morning, I was running a little bit behind, and usually I take the back way into the radio station. But I thought, you know what? I'm just going to turn on Dodge. So I turned on Dodge, and I have to turn left into the radio station. So I slowed way down. Now,
I know what
it's 6:03 in the morning, so it's not going to be a problem. So I turned left. I don't know if that's illegal or not. I don't know if I just outed myself.
As opposed to, okay.
Well, you still have your Illinois plate, so you can claim that. If you get pulled over for anything, it's like, I don't know this place.
Am I going to get my tire slashed for having Illinois plates? That's the thing, by the way. I mean, would you get your tire slashed for having Iowa plates here in Nebraska? Does that happen?
No, that's Kansas plates in Columbia.
Now let me you're used to Chicago.
I am.
Okay. We have some issues here in Omaha. We have a little violence in Omaha. But we do not have people just because you're from Iowa or Illinois, you just slash their tires willy-nilly.
Oh, that's shocking. I have that.
That happened a lot in your neighborhood?
A lot. No, not in my neighborhood. But if you would go up to Wisconsin and you had Illinois plates and you were in like,
Is this around a sporting event?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
okay,
Packers
Lambeau
games, Badgers games. But sometimes, like, it would just happen to people in, like, shady spots of, like, middle of nowhere Wisconsin. It's just they don't like, they call, there's a nickname for Chicago people, a fib.
Okay.
Effing effing Illinois B word that I can't say. That if like they move to Wisconsin and they're Bears fans, they call people from Wisconsin those people who moved to Illinois fibs. There's a little tension between the two states over there. I didn't know if it was a little different.
I think we're Nebraska nice unless you're from Colorado and you happen to be in Lincoln on the first Saturday of September this past year.
Yeah, even your then, tires people were being nice to Colorado fans in Lincoln. It was a sight to see. I mean, I had Colorado fans coming up to me, talking to me, and they were like, "You guys are so nice. You guys are so kind." And I'm like, "Yeah, cool."
Colorado fans got lucky because I think the game was was in hand, and people were like, "Yeah, you know what? We're just going to celebrate among ourselves." But welcome in, everybody. There are a lot of people, not only myself being back in studio for the first time in over 2 weeks, a lot of people are going back to school and work today. Haven't been back 2 weeks.
Got to call my mom. Got to see how she's doing with it.
Shout out
to see if she's going back?
No, she's a teacher.
Oh.
Yeah. I got to see how she's dealing with, I'm not connected to the thing.
Now, I know the weather outside, so I know that school is back because there is a handful of kids in our neighborhood here where the radio station is located that have to ride the bus.
Oh yeah, your friends.
Man. Oh. I give it up to one kid because it doesn't matter. And this is kind of like, I think this is most kids, because I would do the same thing, is hoodie and shorts, doesn't matter how cold it is.
Oh my Lord.
And I didn't go that way this morning because I wanted to, but I really wanted to see if he was out there this morning because it's like the coldest morning of the year.
And it'll be just as cold tomorrow morning. So
I have my buddy, my best friend, Mike Wood.
Shout out Mike Wood.
He legit.
That seems like a made up name.
No, Mike Wood.
Is that an alias?
He was my.
Is Mike Wood a good alias?
Oh, it is a pretty good alias.
No,
Mike
Ron
Wood.
Mexico.
Isn't that like an agent name? Mike Wood.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think one of the best aliases for a female is Shaniqua.
No.
If I was
why would it be Shaniqua?
I love that name.
What about Shaniqua is a good alias though?
Because
if I met a Shaniqua, the point of an alias is so like people don't really know who you are. You have to be unassuming.
You throw them off the scent because then they're like, "Oh, that's such a great name. Where did you get it?"
No clue.
And they want to like if I was going to have a daughter like today, I would name her Shaniqua.
Shaniqua Sharp.
Oh, I think
nice.
That is a great name.
She would be a 6'4" power forward, long legs, long arms, and would play basketball at USC.
No, I disagree. I think she would be a 6.
Why? Because I'm not 6'4"?
She'd be a 6'3" outside hitter who played volleyball at I'll give her UNLV.
Okay. But if I was having a daughter, like if somebody
by the way, did you just describe Juju Watkins?
A little bit. Hey, at my age in life, if I'm going to have a kid, I'm going to suck the life out of them financially.
Oh, sure.
I'm gonna groom them to make a lot of money and make me very happy.
Yeah.
So that I'm not living like in the retirement home, where they ignore you and it smells like old people.
Yeah.
I want to live in a retirement home that is like a 5-star resort. Yes.
Yeah.
Overlooks the water.
Shaniqua would help me get to that point and also help herself.
Shaniqua Sharp. No, I think that if I'd ever
have
a
18
kid,
to 20 years away from that. So I got to work quickly.
If I had a kid who worked.
Yeah. Maybe by about Wednesday, Thursday.
If I were to have a kid who were retired me, I would have to get them into Fortnite, not anything athletic. They just have to be really good at video games because that's probably their best shot.
All right, coming up on the show as we welcome back in, it is Gary and Matt. Jimmy is here as well, live on a Monday.
Shaniqua Sharp.
It's a great name.
It's a great name.
At least if you get a dog.
Name. No, it's a great name. I'm not knocking it.
It just rolls off your tongue.
It does.
Like there are some names that like just they're sports names or they're like celebrity performer names.
Shedeur Sanders, Shaniqua.
Shedeur Sanders is a really good sports name. It like rolls off your tongue.
Don't you think I have a good broadcasting name?
No. The lineup brought to you by the referees at John Higgins Weather Guard. There's too much in there. Some people said you should change your last name.
Or just be like a soccer player and go by Matt.
Matt Smith.
Matt McMaster. Bang, bang. It's 3 syllables.
There's a lot of people.
Matt McMaster.
Like Matt Smith. That would be good.
How about Matt Sharp? I've just become...
No, I don't think so.
That could get awkward.
We have too many Sharps in the media.
Good point.
We have one that doesn't spell his name correctly and the other one that does. There should never be an E on the end of Sharp.
Or Jimmy. Morning, buddy.
I don't know. I love you both. You guys are great. I mean, I'm not gonna get down to the rabbit hole of how Sharp should be spelled.
I think when we came to this country from Germany, it was spelled with a P.
Is that what Sharp is? Sharp's German?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
I'm a little Poon Indian and a little German as well.
And a little Shaniqua.
Dutch Irish.
I'm everything. You know what? I am the rainbow coalition of people. I got a lot in me. The lineup, trying to give it to you. Brought to you by the Roofies of John Higgins Weather Guard. Coming up, Ben Otte will join us at 8.
Yes.
I had to remember when Ben was on. I haven't done a Monday show in a while.
Rainbow Coalition of People, wouldn't that just make you Hawaiian? But you get that? You know, they're the rainbow skate. That's their thing.
The Rainbow Warriors.
Yes, thank you.
Evan Bland from the World Herald will stop by. Also on the show, Jacob Bigelow will stop by. A lot of people are disappointed this morning and probably disappointed yesterday. I have friends that for Christmas got a snowblower.
Yeah.
You know, and you've reached that stage in life when you get fired up for the snowblower.
They need you in Kansas City.
Geez.
Thank you,
or down on the Kansas-Nebraska border. I mean, they got 18 inches. I'm here to tell you, 18 inches is pretty.
Is a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot.
I don't know if those communities could handle 18 inches.
What's the most you've ever dealt with?
Snow?
Yeah, snow. Most inches.
Well, back in the day before climate change took over, we used to have a lot of snow. Now we have drier winters.
Yeah.
We have the dry slot in Omaha, and that's what happened yesterday as I show on the Zone TV in my meteorology minor.
Sure.
You know, the dry slot and the dry air and stuff. And
love me some
there's
dry
the
slot.
Omadome, but it's
back.
Yesterday was a letdown for friends of mine that got a snowblower for Christmas.
Yeah.
Because the night before, all they heard is, we don't know what we're going to get. We're either going to get 18 or we're going to get 2.5, but we're going to get something. So you went into the garage and you cleaned up the snowblower. You made sure that it had all of the gas in it. You were all set to go. You were fired up. You set your alarm for 5 o'clock. You were going to be out there and you're going to be proud.
You probably started it to make sure that it started, right? I mean, you just smell the oil perforating off of the vehicle. You're like, oh, it's going to be a great day tomorrow.
And then the Omadome kicked in. Thank God.
Oh.
You know what? For all you people that wanted snow and you wanted a white Christmas, suck it.
Yeah. No, 1,000,000%.
You know
it's
what?
Nebraska. Every Christmas is a white Christmas.
Snow, and I hate cold.
I'm a little mad at the meteorologists and the weather people because
already
I was supposed to go to the Nebraska basketball game on Saturday.
Oh, you didn't go,
and I didn't go. And
why didn't you go? I heard the conditions were okay.
Yeah,
well, here's what happened.
Gone with Jacob.
We were going to go, and then after the game, we were going to go to a birthday party of one of my very dear friends. And so it was going to be the game. Then we were going to go and get something to eat, and then it was going to be the party, and then we wouldn't be back. We wouldn't be leaving until it was going to be snowing. And so we didn't – I was thinking, maybe I'll go ahead. I'll stay overnight in Lincoln.
Yeah.
Right?
Smart.
But it was supposed to snow overnight in Lincoln too. So I was like, well, I'll just be even more trapped if I go over. So we didn't go at all. We said, you know what? We're going to pack it in. That's just Pandora's box. We don't want to open it. We'll stay in Omaha. We got a lot of things. It didn't, not 1 inch. It didn't snow at all.
Beautiful. You could throw the ball.
I mean,
yesterday.
I thought we were past the days of these weather people being so wrong.
Oh, but they were so right.
Whoa. Hey, you tug on a meteorologist's cape, they're going to fight back against you.
I'm just saying.
Thank you, Bill Randy.
Look, as someone who misses the mark a lot in my job when it comes to making predictions, I'm not going to necessarily pile it onto them. But I'm just going to say they missed the mark.
This was a little tough storm to forecast.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure.
Yeah, I looked at my models, and I'm like, you know what?
GFS was humming along.
We have a wide variety of snow we could get, but I'm glad that it stayed south.
You're an actual meteorology minor.
Yeah,
I had no clue. That's really
poli sci and meteorology.
You've lived like 1,000 lives. You're an interesting dude. You're an interesting human.
And you had a pet pig.
Thank you. Yeah, even
had a pet pig.
I had a pet pig.
How do you not know this?
I just met the guy a month ago.
Check out my LinkedIn profile. It's active right now. Also, the NFL season has come to an end last night with a dud.
Yeah. My coach fired yet?
Lions and the Vikings? No, your coach is
my owner
your
fired
coach has
yet?
got a really good agent.
You know what?
Hey, by the way, your agent. Okay, so this is
my coach is going to be his coach.
I was going to say, I'll take your coach. I'll take his coach. Oh my God, I'll take his coach.
I haven't seen Desperation yet this morning. Now I'm looking at you.
I'll take him.
Speaking of your coach, this might be a spoiler for some. Jerry Jones made a cameo on Landman.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Really, really good. He was like really, really good in a scene with Billy Bob. I mean,
Billy Bob
I have recommended since I started watching it. Like Paramount Plus is on a banger right now.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
They had season 2 of Tulsa King, and now Landman, which has come onto the scene, has been great.
We plan on binging it.
Great, but Jerry Jones made a cameo, and he was actually pretty good. But I think Mike McCarthy's agent is doing better than Jerry Jones.
I'm rooting for Mike
whatever
McCarthy.
They're floating out there. But the field of 14 is set. Do we have a consensus on what the Super Bowl is going to be?
Chiefs versus Chiefs.
I think it will be Buffalo.
Don't do that, Jimmy, because the Bengals' tears are going to come my way, and I'm going to have to swat you down like King Kong did when he was on top of the Empire State Building.
Bengals, they're not
Bring
even
those Bengal tears to me. Shut your face.
They did it to themselves.
Exactly.
They did it to themselves.
Thank you.
They can't. I have no sympathy. I wanted them in. Don't get me wrong. I was rooting for Denver to lose and Miami to lose tomorrow because I think that it would have been entertaining to see the Bengals.
They would be a better matchup than the Broncos Bills. But you know what?
I agree.
You know what? I'm okay with what we did yesterday. It meant nothing to us. Nothing to us. We did what we have to take care of ourselves. I think
they could have stayed on the tarmac.
Lesson today is do yourself.
Yeah.
Do yourself
Absolutely.
and then do others.
We do have a hymns ad in the next break.
That's a good one.
Do yourself and then do others. Kids, tell that to your teachers as you go back to school. I learned something from Uncle Gary on the radio coming into school today. Do yourself and then do others.
That's I think I might get that as like a live, laugh, love in my apartment. I'm lacking decoration. So just right before anyone walks into my bedroom, it'll just be a big sign. Do yourself and then will be in different lettering. And then do others.
Is that why there's a chair in the corner?
I'm no Martha Stewart, but probably that sign in the bedroom probably is not the most appropriate place. Maybe put it in the kitchen.
That
could be a double entendre.
That could be a fumble at the 1 yard line.
I'm just telling you.
Sure.
Yeah, it might be a turnover
or a turn on.
Yeah.
Man,
I don't know. I'm not gonna. That's you.
It'll be like first and goal at the 1 and not giving it to Marshawn Lynch.
Are you willing to concede that the Bills are the favorites in the AFC, even though that you have
not falling
a bye week? Do you think that it'd be fair to say that the Bills are probably the favorite, considering the fact that they've beaten you? Now, granted, they were at home when they beat you, okay? But they did beat you. And I think if we were doing the SEC college football playoff eye test, they probably, over the season, have looked more exciting and at times look like the better team. I think their peak has probably been higher than your peak. At the same time, you have been the standard of consistency in terms of just
Ravens last year?
how good you guys. I mean, you guys play the same game every single week. There's really no fall off.
Except for yesterday.
Well, yeah, but your guys weren't playing.
CBS bailed on that game nationally. I about bailed after it was 14-0 because
I bailed after 21-0.
If they'd gotten off to a good start and not had their first drive go 3 and out, and they like put up some points or stuff, like Kansas City probably would have been more competitive. But once it got sideways, they were like, let's just get out of here. They didn't blitz at all. They didn't do anything.
Did you see that? Once that juggle touchdown happened in the back of the end zone, I was like, this game's toast.
I mean, I was happy for the Broncos. Yeah, I said that as a Chiefs fan.
Because they look beautiful.
Oh, my God. Tampa Bay, the San Diego, L.A. Chargers,
Seattle.
and Denver. Why did you ever change? Huh. Those uniforms were beautiful.
I love the Houston Oilers. Whenever one of those teams, Tennessee or Houston, wears
they wore them before nobody yesterday. They had a cool promotion in Nashville.
Did they?
Yeah.
COVID appreciation.
Empty seat day. come dressed as an empty seat.
It's like 2020.
Buffalo the favorite over Kansas City.
But Kansas City is Buffalo's boogeyman.
Yeah. No, that's why
until you can get over the hump of Kansas City. Now, I have questions about my own team.
Sure.
Because I don't know if they can protect Mahomes. But we'll see. That's why they play the games. That's why if you get on a heater, you can go a long way. Hello, Ohio State.
I think last year, I think that you could have said confidently before the playoffs, the consensus is San Francisco versus Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying revisionist history here. I think you probably could have predicted who they both were going to play. I think Detroit was the team who was going to play the Niners before the playoffs began. Same thing with Baltimore playing Kansas City. But I think at the end of the day, you confidently could say, hey, the consensus right now is San Francisco, Kansas City. I don't think there's a consensus 1-2. I think there's a consensus 4. I think it's Kansas City, Buffalo. What'd you say?
Cheeksy Smurf over here. He goes, you're going to go to the parade this year.
Hell, I'll go with you.
It's Kansas City, Buffalo.
I'm not even a fan.
Philadelphia, Minnesota. I think it'll be a combination of 2 of the 4 teams.
Whoa. Did you not?
Oh, Detroit.
Did you not get television last night?
Never mind. I messed that up. Detroit Eagles.
In color.
And then Minnesota's there. Minnesota's still a good team. Detroit, man. Alex Anzalone. Holy crap.
Aaron Glenn made himself a lot of money last night as the defensive coordinator of the Lions.
Saints are very lucky to have
So we have the NFL playoffs beginning on Saturday, which everybody's shocked that the Texans are playing in the first game. It is one of the great NFL reoccurring bits is that the Texans are going to play the first playoff game.
Yeah, they've done that a lot.
Also, I did not see a flare come up from your new apartment here in Omaha when it became official that Ed Foley was out. Did you go outside? Did you run around the block?
You know what?
Did you honk
I don't want to. I did not. I don't want to celebrate someone getting fired because I feel like that's a little bit.
I don't think he got fired.
He's no longer special teams coordinator.
There's a third microphone in here for a reason.
If you want to be technical, he did not get fired. His contract to be the special teams coordinator at the University of Nebraska was not re-engaged.
He wasn't retained, regardless of it.
Mm-hmm. But I think there's I'm not here for public flogging of Ed Foley.
Neither am I.
The decision has been made. Time to move on. I know that you would like a pound of flesh. I know that you would like one of his cheeks.
I don't know. I'm right there. I'm right there with you. I think it's good for the program. But I'm not. People tweeted at me like, "Hey, congrats! Like I won something when the guy got like fired. I didn't win anything."
Thinking of you, Matt.
It was just one of those.
Never
things
mind
where
the Bears winning.
I stayed, dude. Yesterday was incredible. We haven't even touched on it, man. That was a highlight of my. I think 2025 might be my year.
When Ben Johnson turns you down?
Do you know the last time the Bears beat the Packers? I was in high school and I've graduated college.
But did yesterday count?
Yes, it did.
I don't know that yesterday
counted. They were playing their guys. Love got hurt. Love was trying to get back into the game. He started the game. He got hit. He got hit and he rolled her over on his ankle. The same play one of the wide receivers like tore their ACL. And
such a dumb idea to play Jordan Love and Christian Watson yesterday.
They were trying to give
yourself your own bye.
They were trying to get though the 6th seed as opposed to getting the 7th seed, which I don't blame them.
I don't know that yesterday counted. Just like the Broncos winning 38-0 didn't count.
It definitely
didn't count.
Did.
I think there's an asterisk in the Football Reference.
You are absolutely wrong. They were playing their guys. They were trying to win. They wanted to get a higher seed. If this was the old NFL, if it was the good NFL where there was 2 byes and 6 teams, they would have been playing for a playoff spot.
The Super Bowl was in January.
But Nebraska has made a change with their special teams coordinator. So when the season rolls around in August, Nebraska will have 3 new coordinators. We'll get into more about what happens next with that position. Also, 10 weeks from today, will you still be here?
I don't know,
10 weeks from today, we will be looking at a bracket.
Ooh.
The field of 68 will be announced 10 weeks from today.
You got the Huskers going. Come on. Everyone jump on the bandwagon.
They look great.
They feel like a 9 seed right now. Creighton feels like a first 4 out or next 4 out.
Yeah.
10 weeks from today, we'll be looking at a bracket.
Yeah, we'll get into that conversation. What's the ceiling? What's the floor? What's the expectation, I think?
For
both.
I don't know. It's kind of early, isn't it?
I think I think we're at the point.
I think with Nebraska.
I think we're at the point in this season with most teams. Most teams kind of know what they got. I'm not saying that there can't be a change. Like there are teams who can go on runs, and there are teams who are going to go on major downs, like skids. Don't get me wrong. Like things happen, but I think for the most part, you're roughly what most teams are anywhere from 13 to 15 games into the season. I think for the most part, teams know what they got.
Yeah, okay.
I think both teams know what they have. I think Creighton knows what they got. I think Nebraska definitely knows what they have.
Big game for Nebraska tomorrow night at Iowa. That's if you're not a full believer yet, and that's a good team at Nebraska. They're constructed well.
They are.
And they're inside of the 11 from the Big Ten that have NCAA hopes and dreams. But tomorrow night's a big game in Iowa City. That's on the verge of a do you believe in this team game? Because last year, early on in the year, beat Purdue, laid an egg in Iowa City. Now you're playing an Iowa team that gave up 116 on Friday night at Wisconsin.
But it's an Iowa team, too, that played Iowa State really, really close. And I don't know if you watched that Iowa State-Baylor game, but that I mean, you saw them in person, and then I watched that. I really believe that team in Ames is going to go to the Final Four. And I'll
go a step further. I was one of the first to say buy stock in Iowa State not only making the Final Four, Iowa State can win a national championship.
I totally agree. The way they're built, they rebound, they play defense. Man, they're athletic. The fact that Iowa nearly beat them, and then Iowa Northwestern's. I watched that game when they played Northwestern, and they won on that buzzer beater. But Northwestern's a pretty good team, and at times can be a difficult team to guard with how unorthodox their offense can be. And Iowa did a really good job against them in handling that, and then finding a way to win that game, which is what you have to do in the Big Ten. It's going to be a very, very difficult matchup. For anybody in the Big Ten.
We'll talk more about Saturday at PBA because that's Nebraska's best win of the season. That's a good win against UCLA. All right, you can always join the show, Gary and Matt, 402-951-1620. Always into the Equitable Bank inbox, Gary at 1620thezone.com. Matt at 1620thezone.com.
Ayo. Yep.
It's live. It's running.
Yes, sir.
Also on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed at Gary Sharp 1620, where you can get at us. And
Matt McMedia, at Matt McMedia, MattMcmedia.
You've been practicing that.
I have.
You in front of the mirror?
Every day in front of the mirror.
MattMcmedia.
All right, off and run, lots to discuss. It was a busy weekend for Nebraska football, and prepare yourself. You're going to need to hydrate because it's going to be a busy week around here. It's Gary and Matt with Jimmy, 1620 The Zone. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome in on a Monday. Back at it. Welcome back to everybody that is on the roads, headed to, back to school, back to work. It is the 6th of January.
Yes, it is. Today is the 6th of January. It
seemed like 4 years ago that this day became even more than just a day in January.
Yeah, that is. I have a really great friend of mine who was born on January 6th.
Oh, I thought you were going to say. I have a friend of mine that stormed the Capitol.
Buffalo horns, and it's just a weird guy.
No,
he throws a great tailgate party.
I don't mean to be mad at your friend or
Loves
like it's a letdown.
Tigers.
But I thought you were going to say I had a friend I went to high school with, and 4 years ago today he was in D.C. and stormed the Capitol. You might have seen him on CNN.
He had his feet up in someone's office. No, I have a friend who was born on this day who is really mad that occurred because now his birthday, like every time he says, yeah, my birthday's January 6th, like there's a scold or there's like, oof, it's almost like saying like, I'm a Bears fan or I'm a Browns fan or I'm a Nebraska football fan. Everyone always like, ooh, man, are you okay? Is that like he hates it, hates that it happened.
Terry writes into the Equitable Bank inbox where they take banking personally.
Hi, Terry.
How long do you think they were off? I think Doug gave his staff 2 weeks off.
I think Christmas break. Doug's a stand-up guy.
Doug said he'd be working.
Doug's always working.
Doug, I'm sorry I never made it in for coffee.
Yeah, he works at a bank.
Yeah. Terry writes in, hi, guys. I drove the suicide lane. Is that what they call it?
Is that what they call it?
Every day to and work to Mutual of Omaha for 35 years. One morning at the start of the lane, I was heading up the hill by UNO, but there appeared to be a car coming at me and fast approaching. Not wanting to win a game of chicken. Do people still play that?
Yeah.
Like crazy. I did that when I was in high school. You don't even think about, this might be one of the dumbest things you've ever done. But you know what? We got our parents' car. Let's play chicken.
Yeah. What's the worst that can happen?
Hey, let's do what they did in Footloose.
We did it once, and we were like, and we didn't nearly hit the car in front of us. We nearly hit cars when we went to the right.
Yeah.
Because we lost. Because hell no, dude. And no, never again.
God, that was stupid what we did back then.
Your generation was way crazier than my generation. I can't really tell stories. I have a difficulty.
You mean you've never surfed on the hood of a car?
Well, that's the thing.
What styles do?
I have a difficulty talking to people like your guys' age about like what I did growing up, because you guys always can one up me and be like, well, I was gone for 3 days and my parents had no clue where I was at, and that was like the norm. You just show up and you just hit one of those what are rotary phones, right, or something like that, rotisserie phones where you
rotisserie.
Comes in lemon, pepper, and original.
They had a lot of those in Goodfellas.
So they named the chickens after.
They had, you do that, and you call your mom, right, and your mom would be like, "Where the hell have you been?"
Continue with Terry's email. I pulled over to the middle lane, and they go flying by. The potential crash would have been first alert 6 worthy had it happen. I don't know. I'm thinking about that if I'm involved in a crash, I might get on the news.
You have a channel.
I was a bit shaken afterward. I would be too. It is a little confusing for newcomers because, also they've changed it.
Okay.
A while ago, but Farnham used to be. I never understood like the Farnham, like between 7 and 9, it's one way, and then the rest of the day it's 2-way. And
I'm telling you, it's a fluid street system. It's fluid.
That's one way to describe Omaha's traffic system.
It's fluid.
Let's ask him again in 6 months.
You just got to follow the road.
Hey, they ever get that garbage truck? When I was away, I saw they had a sinkhole downtown. They ever get that garbage truck out of the sinkhole?
It's now modern art. And just leave it there.
What? I didn't see that.
An incident downtown.
A sinkhole.
Really?
And a sinkhole.
Do you think I should just
I wonder what'll happen to the? I wonder if they'll reinforce the streets for the old streetcar.
Do you
that would be unfortunate to have a streetcar go into a sinkhole.
Do you think for 2 hours I should just drive around Omaha?
Yes.
Just learn.
No, not drive.
Streets?
Not drive. Here's the best thing I did.
Okay.
So whenever I go to a new city.
Oh yes. Okay.
I did this when I came to Omaha. Now I did not do this when I went to Florida because it's too spread out and it's just, it's easier to navigate via car because the public transportation system in Florida is just garbage.
Plus
they have public trans? I didn't know that.
But you need to drive. Everything is so spread out in Florida.
Yeah.
But when I first moved to Omaha, or back to Nebraska and moved to Omaha, I went and rode the city bus for like 3 hours. I just went all over the city.
It's a great idea. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of knew Omaha, but I got to see parts of Omaha that I had not seen before, and also just kind of hang out with people on the bus. I like to meet people. I like to talk to people. So why don't you take a day after work?
Yeah.
Now it's not Orbit because you're just going to go up and down Dodge. Just get on a city bus, maybe by your house.
Yeah.
and just ride it for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, see the city of Omaha.
I'm not opposed
to
that.
See the people of Omaha.
I'm not
the real people of Omaha ride the city buses.
What if I did a show?
A phrase that's not mentioned very often.
What if I did a show remotely from a bus? Like you were here,
we did,
and I just remotely get on a bus and I just ride around all day.
We did a way back in the day. We did a show.
I did not know
on
this.
The city bus.
That's awesome.
Oh wow!
Well, because we talked about what I did, and so the people at the bus company, like that what you call it, they're like, "Hey, would you guys like to try this?" So it did not go off so well.
Friday Husker tailgate on a bus.
I would do that. I would hop on a bus and then just bring. Hey, you want it? How you doing? Nice to meet you. Here you go. We put in front of a camera. You want? I got a nice microphone.
I'm sure your nice little suburban white personality would go over well. People would be like, kick this kid off.
Well, no. What do you mean?
You're not from here, are you, kid?
People, you've seen me. The problem is that I would need a plug. I would need to get. Is there an outlet on buses in Omaha that I could plug into? I don't know. I've never been on an Omaha bus.
Probably Wi-Fi. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's probably concierge service.
His email's matt@1620thezone.com if you'd like to help out.
Yeah, help me out.
Terry also had his snowblower ready. A lot of people are upset. The Oma Dome kicked in. Oma Dome is real. The dry slot is real. And you know what? It's real that they got a lot of snow elsewhere besides here.
Yeah. They can.
It's one of the advantages of living in Omaha. We don't have winters like we used to.
Oma Dome. I got to get this nose figured out though. I'm just all dry.
You get a new one?
Yeah, I got a big one. They call me Schnoz growing up. It's a burden, man. It's a burden to have a nose this big.
That's why people were inquiring when you first started if you're Jewish.
No, I know, dude. I
had no idea what that meant. I didn't know if that was like your last name or they said no. You got to look at his nose. I'm like, is that a real thing?
It is it is.
McMaster.
It's a little
New York,
stereotypical, but like it is.
Well, we got listeners that are very stereotypical.
Yeah, why not? No. It's good content.
All right, here is Nebrasketball Mike. Hello.
Hello. I hope I'm not stereotypical.
No. Oh hell no.
Hell no. Not,
hey, Mike. Do you know what? You know what's going on today? You know what's happening with old Nebraska basketball?
I don't want to be ranked. Don't tell me we're ranked.
Thank you. I'm with you. I am on team. Don't rank Nebraska. I don't know that Nebraska will be ranked today in the AP poll that comes out later. But do you want even a better ranking? Are you ready?
Me.
Are you ready? Oh,
what?
Did you just say talk Hoiberg to me? Is that what you just said?
Whatever.
All right. I
see you. Go ahead.
I see you're not into jokes this morning. Come on, be better. Nebraska beat UCLA. Nebraska's 33rd in the net.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That
is good.
That was a very interesting watch. I'm sure Bill Walton was rolling over yesterday. Looking at that. I'm sorry, sir, we had to do that. If it was 30 years ago, we wouldn't have a shot, but it's not. Matt.
Mike.
If we get one more first down, you're not winning that game yesterday, so please don't make stuff up. We gave it to you.
No, you didn't, Mike.
Thank
we earned
you.
that.
Yeah, we did.
We earned that, Mike. You kidding me? 3rd and 11, Mike. 3rd and 11. Caleb Williams, generational talent, drops back, leads his boys to another game-winning drive, and this time they actually got it for him. Don't tell me about it, Mike. I'm going to revel in it. Last play in the year. You can feel it. You can feel it, Mike. Revel in that. Sleep in that, Mike. Sleep in it.
No.
Hey, Mike, remind him who's in the playoffs and who is not.
I'll revel in a meaningless Chicago Cup game in September with you. I'm not reveling in a football game that doesn't matter.
Oh, there will be no meaningless games in September.
There will
this
be
year.
very meaningful games in September for the Chicago Cubs.
We can hope.
We will hope.
Have you looked at the division?
I don't like going to Iowa when they have to wake up. I don't like them having to fall. I don't like them falling asleep the game before they get to us.
Yeah,
defensively.
I don't know that Iowa under Fran has had they've had liabilities defensively. I don't know if they fixed that overnight, but their effort will be increasingly better. And the first 8 to 10 minutes tomorrow night will be interesting to see what Iowa's energy level is.
Up 85, which we kind of need to do.
I don't know. Well, maybe in that game because the pace that Iowa plays in. But here's the thing with Nebraska basketball that I don't think they can touch the Illinois and the Michigan States and bring them into the mud. But there are a lot of teams in the Big Ten that Nebraska can drag into the mud.
Yeah.
Yes, there are.
And play those, not to the extent of run after run and rock fight type on Saturday, but you know what I'm saying? Like, play games in the mid to upper 60s, not in the mid to upper 80s.
Was Connor's Legion just offered? We have a problem with that.
Mike, I think that's just kind of the shooter's law. He's going to have games where he's going to go 4 of 7, 5 of 8, where he's going to be a flamethrower and he's going to win you games. I mean, look, Casey was incredible, like the year and a half, 2 years that he was here. But there were games where he was off, and there were games like Ohio State last year where he became almost unplayable. And Hoiberg didn't, would bench him because of those reasons. I think with the siege, and like that's just going to kind of what you're going to get from a guy. And I'm glad for Nebraska basketball that they were able to win a game and prove that they can win a game without him being at his very best. But I'm not selling any stock in a siege, and I think that's just kind of what's going to happen.
All right, if we can get to a 6 seed, we can win a game.
I agree, Mike.
Anything underneath that, I don't know.
I think you can win a game at any seed.
Hold on, it's way too early.
Yeah,
but to get a better matchup, you probably need to be in the 6-7.
Yeah,
to play a 6-11 or a 7-10. I think that's way too early. But it's a good team. They're an NCAA tournament team.
They are.
But Ken Palm doesn't believe in them. Mike, have a great week.
Thanks, Mike.
You too.
Ken Palm has them losing the next 2, I think 6 of the next 8.
Oof.
They have the 4-game stretch is kind of interesting. They go at Iowa tomorrow. Then they got to go to Mackey. Purdue's won 25 in a row. That's a top 25 team.
Purdue looked damn good against Northwestern.
Then they have Rutgers in a road game at Maryland. That's their next 4. But I'm also on don't rank Nebraska. I think Nebraska is better when nobody talks about it.
Yeah, so is that just kind of a
team no rank? And also, I don't think. I mean, come on. The looking at the rankings once in a while in basketball, there are people that don't watch basketball.
It's so flawed, isn't
it? So I'm not going to get caught up if they get ranked or don't get ranked. My ranking is they're 33rd in the net this morning.
It's such a flawed. I don't like the college basketball rankings because you talk about college football, how that ranking puts too much stock into preseason rankings. College basketball is even worse. I mean, you can lose 2 or 3 games, probably more so 2 than 3, depending on who you're playing, and still be in the rankings if you're high enough. You can go on a heat. I mean, look at Georgia. Now, Georgia lost to Ole Miss earlier in the year, right? Or this weekend. But up to that point, they were 12-1 with some quality wins over opponents. If they had started the year ranked, they would be a top team in the country. Because they didn't, despite the fact that them going 12-1, they weren't even in the top 25 yet, and they had to earn their way. So I totally agree with you. College basketball rankings, I don't buy them. The only rankings I buy are the NCAA tournament.
Give you another ranking. This is might be a shocker to some, but it's an indication of Fred Hoiberg's change. When maybe after year 3, he didn't think he would make it to another 3 years.
Yeah.
Nebraska's top 15 in the metrics in defense.
Nate Losner needs to get a raise or some sort of Medal of Freedom or some sort of humanitarian award for the work that he's done. And the multiplicity of their defenses, the way they come out and man and zone, when they do that kind of hybrid man zone, when they're able to switch up, if they got 3 in the front or 2 in the front, their communication, their help defense, it's incredible how much he's changed this team, and with that, changed the culture and changed the trajectory of this program.
Yeah, there's a lot in what you said that I have an observation that we'll get to before we're out of here at 10. To wrap this hour up, a discussion that we started about turning left on Dodge. Thank you to Kevin. He says you can turn left on Dodge into businesses, but not at marked intersections. Okay. So I'm okay turning left into the radio station.
Oh, because it's a business.
Wow.
But why would people honk behind me, though? And give me, hey, you're number 1.
Yeah.
So you're saying you
always
just
with the wrong finger.
So
always
I always thought it was this finger. Why is
turning left onto Dodge?
They gave you the Jack McDowell.
It's just dangerous because you got to cut across 2 very busy lanes. Is basically what it is.
And play a little Frogger.
And then if you're not in the suicide lane, which is crazy.
Can we not call it that?
Yeah. What is it?
Awful.
We need a proper name for that. That's what that person who emailed you called it. So I just assumed, them being an Omaha native, that's what it's.
I don't think it says that on the map when you put in Google Maps. I don't think it says this lane.
I don't think when
it talks to you, it says get out of the
suicide lane. I won't push that propaganda.
Don't say that on the news.
I won't push that propaganda. And that's what they called it. That's what I thought it was. Regardless. Yeah, makes sense.
All right. Ben Oddie, Evan Bland, Jacob Bigelow. Good
great crew.
Guests that we'll chat to this morning. And also, I wasn't there on Saturday. You weren't there on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm so mad about it.
What was up with the Office theme?
I didn't like it. I don't like it when the score bug looked weird. It just, I get it. I get what marketing's trying to do. Retro Day was cool. Retro Day was sick because they had uniforms for that. Like they had retro uniforms as well.
Guy I gave my tickets to said, what's up with the Office theme? I was in the middle of the North Dakota State Omaha game, and I'm like, Office theme.
Great road trip for the Mavericks.
It was a good 2-0. Huge game Wednesday night, Baxter Arena, 8:05, nationally televised CBS Sports Network against the preseason favorite Kansas City.
Wow.
Big game. We'll talk to the head coach tomorrow on the show.
Awesome.
We'll talk to all of you after the break. It's Scary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in. Hour number 2. Good Monday, everybody. How we all doing? Off to a good start?
Yeah, off to a heck of a start.
Good morning to, let's give some shout-outs here.
Heck yeah.
Captain Sal Bass, Drunk Monk, all up early with us. Jim is up. Good morning, Jim. Headley, Richard. I got to catch up here. Corey, all of them joining us. D-Pick has now joined the party.
I love the Twitch chat, man.
D-Pick says...
YouTube chat. Great stuff.
Or how about 1620 The Zone TV?
Yeah.
Chat.
All the chats. All the chats. I love the chats.
D-Pick says, turning left off Dodge is never acceptable business or otherwise. Kevin would disagree with you.
Now I don't know what to do.
Let's try this and see if you get a ticket.
What?
Turn left off a Dodge.
I haven't gotten a ticket.
Well, we have our cop friends who listen. I'm sure they could shed some light for us.
I've never gotten a ticket. My whole time driving. Never gotten a ticket.
You better knock on wood.
We have some cop friends who listen to the show.
Never gotten one yet. But I'm not one of those guys. I'm smart about it. I'm not like a driving Miss Daisy where I'm like, I don't go into I don't go over the speed limit, or if it's a 25, I'm at 24. Like, I'm not a little like ditzy dude. Like, I don't, guys, I got a 6-cylinder.
I
put a little pedal to the metal.
Like you on Dodge in the left lane.
Do you just flex and say, I've got a 6-cylinder?
I got a 6-cylinder. I put a little pedal in the metal. I like to push the car a little bit. You got to push the car so the oil can run through, so your transmission fluid gets going. I'm acting as if I know what I'm talking about cars. I have zero idea what I just said there. I'm just kind of BSing.
You're the kind of guy that goes to Jiffy Lube and they take advantage of you.
Oh, I'm afraid of the mechanic. I just know when I walk into the mechanic that I'm going to be walking out paying 3 times more for stuff I probably don't need. It's a whole act. The whole mechanic thing's a whole, like, they really milk you. But they're essential. They're a necessity.
Send them to a car wash.
You know, if they weren't a necessity, I would do the stuff myself, but I can't. So you know what? That's when I'm going to have I have a ton of respect for mechanics. But I know when I go in there, and I know when I just need 4 tires, I'm going to come out with a new carburetor, with a new belt, with a new, with new everything, with a new glove box,
8 tires,
new seats. I just know. It's part of doing business.
Yeah, I used to go to those places all the time, and then they F me.
Yeah.
On my current vehicle, they forgot to put the screw back in the oil pan, and all of a sudden I got a heating warning. I'm like, I just bought this car, and took it in, and I got scolded over at Woodhouse. They were like, "Where did you take this?" And so I said, "The Valvoline." And they said, "Don't ever go there again.
Wow.
And your car is going to come here every single time."
Well, they gotcha.
Well, also I'm smart. It's a nice vehicle. I pay a lot for that vehicle, and so now I'm bounded to Woodhouse to come and get my oil change there. Now they're great. I mean, it's like luxury when you're waiting for your vehicle, and they don't try and they don't come in with your air filter and go, "Mr. Sharp, I know your car only has 4,000 miles on it, but have you looked at your air filter? Yeah. What are you driving through?"
Mm-hmm. They always have refreshments there too. I enjoy it.
Hey, they got Wi-Fi. They got big screen TV now. They got like fancy coffee.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
Oh, they got snacks.
They got room for kids if they're screaming.
Is this my mechanic now? Is this where I'm going? Is this
Woodhouse.
my work?
It's my dealer.
Oh, okay.
I've bought numerous vehicles from Woodhouse.
Gotcha.
Or leased numerous vehicles from Woodhouse. So now I only go there to get my oil changed. I'm off of driving in, and 5 minutes later you're out with your oil changed, and whoever else knows. I learned my lesson.
I went in, I got my car done.
I would never go to that place again, by the way.
And I
located on L Street.
An insane amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
And then I turned on the car 3 days later, and I had a coolant problem. And I called and I go, what are we doing here? How do I already have, I literally just paid all this money for you to go and look at my car and fix my car. And they're like, we'll bring it back. And I go, I ain't paying for anything. I already paid you. Like, you do this. And I put my foot down. I got it done. You'd be proud of me.
Hey, one of the best things that ever happened to me is my dad, who is not a car guy.
Yeah.
But he said, I'm going to show you the basics of car so I can change my own oil.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, when I first started driving, he goes, I'm going to teach you a couple things about your vehicle. And he goes, we're going to learn how to change your oil, check your oil, all of that stuff.
That's great.
So thank you, Dad.
My dad taught me how to change the tires and how to, that's not special, but that's all he taught me. He taught me how to change the tires, and that was really it. Other than that, we go.
Because of where you live, have to put the lock?
No.
The little safety lock over the
club? Not in Skokie, Illinois.
There is a car. I would think where our radio station is, we're at 50th and Dodge. Okay. Other than people driving into businesses around here.
Now turning left when they're not supposed
to. 50th and Dodge is or what is it? Is it 50th? Yeah. 50th, 49th, whatever. Yeah. This intersection right here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of accidents there.
Really?
Yeah. It's kind of a tricky intersection. But other than some cars driving into businesses in our neighborhood, it's a relatively safe neighborhood.
Sure.
The guy that got murdered just down the street, that's like 8 years ago.
Oh, yeah. That's so
okay. So there hasn't been a copycat murder of somebody in the neighborhood.
Someone didn't pay their advertising.
I went because then they put a year later, they put the house up for sale. And I'm like, I want to go look at it.
Oh, and you went up and you went in there?
Well, because it's right down the street here. It's on Capitol. It's like a really nice house. I love this neighborhood that our radio station is in. Because, when you're in college and you're looking for an apartment, you might go to a place that has a red splotch on the floor and you ask and they go, oh, I think there was a fight.
Yeah.
Punch.
And then you're like, oh, did someone die here? Like I had a friend that we were going to be roommates and he goes, did someone die here? And he goes, I'm not in law school at Nebraska, but I think you have to reveal if someone has died in a place you're trying to rent or sell. So I went and looked at the house and it's a really, really nice house. So that's a while ago. But there is a car that I always notice because when I stop at 52nd and Capitol to turn left, there's a car that is always parked there, has got the club. It has got the club.
They pop out the face of their CD player when they get out of the car.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's something.
That brings back memories.
I know.
Now, does that decrease? That's got to decrease home value, right? Like they
If they have a car on the street that has a club?
Yeah. I mean, or no, or
character.
Just if like the house, like someone got murdered here, does that decrease the value?
I've never lived next to a house where somebody got murdered, but you might be onto something.
You got to. I would pay less for a house if they got
in this state. In this state, however, your property tax might go up. They're like, hey, a lot of stuff happens in that neighborhood.
A lot of stuff happens.
All right, we are in the middle of prepare yourself because as we kick off this week. Are you ready?
Yes,
do you feel like you're energized? You had a good night's sleep?
I had pretty good.
Because you're about ready. You ready for something this week?
Give it to me.
Because tonight we have the FCS championship. North Dakota State, and Montana State. I was just in Fargo. There are a lot of people going to be in Frisco. Also, so it was brutally cold in Fargo on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Day ends and
everybody goes to Texas, so it's in Frisco tonight, and it's a standalone game. It's Monday Night Football. FCS, it's great.
I can't wait.
Next year, they're going to Nashville. They're going to Nashville for the next 2 years. But you get to see the Bison. They got 5 Nebraskans playing for them. Most of them have a significant role. But everybody that was going from Fargo down there thought we're going down to warm weather. It's going to be like 33 at kickoff tonight in Dallas for that game.
In their defense, that's April. They play baseball in Fargo in that way.
Hey, didn't that Fargo has 2 seasons, winter and 4th of July.
Didn't that happen in that like Dallas-Fort Worth area like 2 years ago where they got down to like 10 and the place shut down? Like they didn't know what to do. They didn't have
Google the 83 Rams-Cowboys game.
What is that? How cold was that?
About 20 at kickoff.
Really? Wow.
They just play outdoors.
Hey, no kidding. My first bout with winter in South Florida.
Yeah.
It was getting down to 40 one night. No, it was getting down to like 38. Now, there was concern about the orange groves and the tomatoes and all the produce, but there was nobody on the street. And just like here, when there's an impending snowstorm, people go to the grocery store to get milk and bread. I don't know why they don't ever get beer.
That's what I wonder.
Everybody goes milk and bread.
Frozen pizza and beer.
I think you're programmed to go get milk and bread. Get some alcohol.
I totally agree.
Drink milk.
But
couldn't agree more.
Nobody was on the streets. And my ex, we're both from the Midwest. I was from Iowa, she's from Nebraska. We were like, what is going on here? Because it was the first time that we'd experienced cold in South Florida. But nobody was on the streets, and the grocery stores were like barren. People had like panic buying.
Wow.
And I'm like, really? It's going to be 38 degrees. Now, 38 degrees there is bitterly cold. I think like 60 and you're at the beach is ridiculous. And the only people that are at the beach in Florida when it's 60 are tourists because it's friggin' cold.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't go as far to say it's cold 60. I mean,
that wind off the water.
Well,
when it's 60
no, off the water. No, off
Wait
the
till
water.
you're
I
older.
agree. That's a good point. But I'm just saying in general, 60 in Florida ain't bad. I have a lot of relatives in Florida because I'm Cuban, and so there's a lot. I have a ton of family in that Miami.
I mean, you don't have like
area.
relatives in Delaware, or
no. No, it's
Pierre,
the south side
Dakota?
of Chicago and Miami, Florida, and Sarasota. They came up. They would come a lot to Chicago.
You got
right?
the rich Cubans that live in Sarasota.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they'd come up, and it would be like they'd come up in the summer or maybe in the late summer, and it would be a beautiful 67 and breezy, 71 with a little bit of wind, and they would be in like hoodies, and they would be in like sweaters, and they would be like chattering teeth. And my mom and I would be like, this is the best weather ever of the year. This is our favorite thing. It's just a different. My cousin in Tampa, Grew up in Chicago. Grew up in the cold. He's now lives in Tampa. He's been there for 6 years. He comes up for the Winter Classic. He goes, I can't do this. He's like he's in 4 coats.
Look at me.
He's in 2 gloves. He goes, this is ridiculous. Like I can't move.
It's true. Your blood thins out.
I believe you. Because he grew up in Chicago, and I thought you were being dramatic and everything. And I was like, I'm not buying that. You grew up, you're an Iowa guy, you lived in Nebraska. I'm not buying that you just turned into this 87-degree, no air conditioning lizard psycho. But now, my cousin comes back after a lifetime in Chicago. It's 6 years in Tampa, comes back, he can't handle the cold anymore. I believe you, Gary Sharp.
It can happen to all
I believe you.
But you have two teams from Bozeman and Fargo are playing in Dallas tonight. It's going to be 32 degrees.
Crazy.
They're all being
I can't wait for that game. That'll be great. I watched that. I've watched both of those games when they both played, and it's high quality football, man.
Yeah, but FCS football is in trouble.
It is.
It's the same teams year after year that are dominating. But it'll be a good game tonight. Then you get 2 days off from football, and the college basketball slate's pretty good. And then, are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready? Prepare yourself.
Are you ready?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we have football.
And high quality, high leverage, high stake football. This
and the
ain't your
Texans.
grandmother's
hydrate
football
properly.
It's going to be a long. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And tonight we have the Netflix premiere of Monday Night Raw.
Is Joe T?
Joe Tess is on it. Yeah, I think.
Did they move him? They move him to.
He might have. I saw that he might have been moved to SmackDown. It might be McAfee and it might be
Screaming
McAfee and Michael Cole tonight. Let me look up. I will look that up.
All right. While you look that up, let's talk to Caleb from La Vista. Hello, Caleb.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I heard you guys talking about someone dying in the house over in your area of your guys' town. I didn't hear what led up to that. I just hopped into my car and I was listening.
Drug deal gone bad.
Oh, that sounds about right. So my first time, me and my wife just got married. We were looking for an apartment. We were down in Bellevue. I was in the military at the time. Found this apartment, looked great. Loved it.
Yeah.
Well, they said, we got to replace this little square piece of carpet.
Oh no.
And we were like, okay, that doesn't sound too bad. Sure. Well, end up getting the apartment. There's a hole in the wall outside. It looks like someone either punched it or something. And there was no microwave in it for a couple days. So we started asking around. I was like, so what, asking some of the other people that have lived there, like, oh yeah, there was some people fighting. Well, some military people had previously lived there, and they were playing the trust game, which is a newer version of Russian roulette.
Yeah. Oh.
And someone ended up taking one to the head in that building, and we confirmed with a couple of people. They were like, yep, it was definitely more than that. There was some arguing going on. Someone punched a hole in the wall. So we were like, yeah, that's great. So someone probably took one somewhere. That's why the microwave's dead and the carpet. And then so we looked up, like you were saying, about if they have to tell you whether or not someone has died. And from what we read, this was, we're not experts, but it said if you ask if you're renting, if you ask, they have to disclose it. But if you do not ask, they do not have to. Okay. So the next 2 apartments we rented, that was the first question. Has anyone died here? And they gave us a look like, no, not that we're aware of. And we're like,
stutter?
All right.
So Caleb, wait, I got a couple questions here. So you didn't end up living there? So it scared you off that much?
We did.
Oh, you ended up living there?
No, we found out everything after we were, I think 21, and neither of us had ever rented an apartment on our own. We were adulting by ourselves. So
were you creeped out by it? Like, looking back on it, would you not have done it if you knew before?
Oh, totally. Looking at this section. So then we ended up having some issues with the carpet at the end of our lease, and they were like, we only replaced all the carpet. And I was sitting there thinking, but you just did this little section because someone bled a lot there. So
hey, Caleb, thanks for the phone call.
Yeah, that's great. Oh my Lord.
Happy Monday.
So do you like Carfax? Do you have to do a property?
Now Matt's going to go to the office after he gets home.
Use that for leverage? I mean, I don't want to give up where I live, but
I don't think anybody's been killed where you are at.
Well,
that would be impressive.
Yeah, I don't think in that property is relatively new.
No, not killed, but people have passed away in that area.
Oh yeah, I mean you're in a gangbanger area.
But no, could you use that as leverage? Is that a leverage play?
I don't know. I think they say, hey, if you want this or not.
Yeah.
There are plenty other places
I got other
overpay for apartments in Omaha.
That's a good point.
All right, so I just checked the Huskers.com. Ed Foley is still listed. His contract was not renewed. But is he out, or will he get a Kenny Wilhite role as an ambassador? So this is we're in agreement here. I know you want to take a victory lap. There's no victory lap to be had here.
I don't think there is.
Might be there are guys that go elsewhere and are involved in special teams that are okay. But then when they come to Nebraska, they're like, you know what? We struggle a little bit with that special teams. But credit to Ed Foley, and we've had some fun with this. And my interactions with him, he can hold a conversation. He's very charismatic. There's a laundry list of things that have not gone well over the last 2 years. So this is a decision that was the right decision, and he had to move on. And it's kind of the change of Matt Rule of 2.0 of who you hire. Best candidate, not friends, familiarity. Get into that in just a moment. But I wonder, because Ed did do, and this is I'm not just blowing smoke here. He did do a lot for the relationship between high schools that are not in Omaha and Lincoln. Like going around the state and everything he did, because he's a very personable guy. And it's a big deal. Like in Omaha and Lincoln, we do see Nebraska coaches a lot in the hallways. But in places where they don't have a Nebraska-type recruit, or they haven't had one, and yet a football coach that's a real football coach and not just like, an analyst shows up. Yeah. That's a big deal. And Ed performed that role really well. I wonder if there'll be a Kenny Wilhite type role where Kenny kind of was that. Now, Kenny didn't travel the state, but everybody knew Kenny. And Kenny was kind of like the liaison between the head coach and the Nebraska high schools. We don't know. But Nebraska needs a special teams guy. And you got to get this right.
Have to.
You absolutely have to get this right. And it's go time for the guy that's running the show in Lincoln. All right? I think we're all willing to give him a mulligan because Frost did the same thing after 2 years on one side of the ball, made a change at offensive coordinator. Everybody gets that one get-out-of-jail-free card. Usually don't get that second get-out-of-jail-free card.
Couldn't agree more.
But it's like go time in 2025 for Matt Rule. You've had your 2 years to learn the league, learn Nebraska, learn your roster, but you've had some failed hires. Now you've got new coordinators across the board, a lot of new faces that are coaching. You have not really hit home runs in your first true recruiting class or your first portal class. So everybody's giving you a respite. And so you get a mulligan, and 2025 is go time. But this hire is pretty important. I mean, it's a home run. I'm not going to say home run hire. You have to make a hire that we don't talk about.
So through 2 years, brand new coordinators, all three of them, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, impending. Only 3 guys are in their original positions from when they were hired.
Mm-hmm.
Dvorak, Raiola, or 2 guys are only in their original position, and then you have Satterfield, who's still there. He's not in his original position.
What's the value of Marcus Satterfield to Nebraska football now?
I think that's a great question for Matt Rule.
What is the value of Marcus Satterfield to Nebraska?
What the value is this. It's probably the same thing as Ed Foley. I've talked to Marcus Satterfield. He's a really nice guy. He's a really good human. I've enjoyed my conversations with him. I'm sure there are people who share probably the same sentiment in that building, who like him, who like having him around, who thinks, obviously he's Matt's guy. Matt and him are incredibly close.
That's great. Need to win some football games.
No, I agree.
Can you help me win football games?
I'm just telling you what the perceived value of having him around is. That's probably what it is. But I think you're alluding to the fact that he probably doesn't have a lot of value in the current position as a tight ends coach. I don't
know, man. I think from his standpoint, are you hanging on for one more year because you have a contract? Now, they're not going to pay him what they were paying him.
They're not going to pay him.
But that's kind of a hit to the ego, I would think.
Oh, massive. He went from having probably the two most important jobs on the offensive end. He was the coordinator and the quarterbacks coach. He loses the QB coach job. Okay, you know what? That's not even what they wanted to have him do in the first place. The original plan was for him to be OC and tight ends coach, and then they failed on hiring Pete's, who ended up staying in the NFL. So he does that. They bring in Thomas. They move him to tight ends coach. His offense just absolutely sputters out after what was a pretty decent start to the season. He loses that job. I don't know. Maybe you're right. He's probably just going to stay around for another year in a place that he's really comfortable with, a head coach he's really comfortable with, and collect another paycheck. And they're probably, in Matt's eyes, some value in having a nice guy like Marcus Satterfield who really likes football. At the same time,
I'm in a business, man. This is a Fortune 500 company.
Exactly.
Right? I want a return on my investment.
Exactly.
It's 2 straight years where you brought in Glenn Thomas to help Marcus Satterfield because he needed help on game day. You brought in Dana Holgerson so you could help Marcus Satterfield not be the OC. I don't know what happens, with his contract because they can't pay him what they're paying him. And then E.J. Barthel's contract was up as well. He's also still on the website. But here's the thing that we're all going to do about names about a special team coach. Let me just start with Bill Busch. Outside of his time at Nebraska, he really doesn't have an extensive history of special teams coaching. And I know Bill is a great guy, and he's very good at what he does now in radio in Lincoln in the mornings.
He is.
But we gotta push that aside, okay? I know Mike Eckler is a popular one. His contract is up the end of January, and Mike.
Crash.
I enjoyed Mike when he was at Nebraska, and he's got a lot of experience. I don't know what his career aspirations are. But here's what we're going to do in the media. I know you told me you got a couple of names. We're just going to throw names out for special teams guys and go, you know what? If this is the guy and connect the dots, let's be honest. How many special teams coaches do you know by name across the country?
Couldn't agree more.
There's probably one. Now, I'm going to give you a couple. So LeVar Woods at Iowa.
That's the only one I know.
Sean Snyder, who was in line to be, at Nebraska, and now is working at Oklahoma State
for a year.
It's just there's going to be just like some wild names thrown out here. But here's the hiring mindset is rule has changed to now we hire the best candidate instead of it's just got to be familiarity. But in this role where this area of Nebraska can't be the reason why you don't get to 8-9. Getting attention in November as a playoff possibility. You can't have special teams do that to you next year. So with that said, and you get a mulligan on special teams, and I think special teams falls on the plate of the head coach, do you say, this is one where I got to go with familiarity? Or you go, we're Nebraska, we got cash, we are going to try and either steal someone or hire the best.
So I have I don't know if it's a theory or maybe I'm just kind of throwing it out there, and maybe this was Matt Rule's mindset. Matt Rule, the first thing he needed to do when he got to Nebraska in his head wasn't necessarily, I have to win all these games. Mm-hmm. It was, I have to set my culture. I have a culture. We have a way of doing things here. We did it at Baylor. We did it at Temple. We have to set this culture, and this is how we're going to build the foundation to win the games that we need to win down the line so we can sustain this thing, so we can leave this better than we found it, which is what he's been saying. And so which is exactly why he brought in his guys. He didn't hire based on merit right away because he goes, no. What's more important than merit and what's more important than just getting the best development results and the best win results is I have to set the culture, okay? And he's now set the culture. The culture is set, and the culture is him. The guys know what he expects from them. The guys know what the standard is. They know their schedule. They know what they're doing. And I feel like that might have been a thing in his head where he goes, okay, I'm going to bring in guys who maybe don't have a ton of experience, right? But I know that we're going to set this way the way I need to set it. And then down the line, yes, I can maybe go back and do some hires and get some guys based off of merit so we can start getting production. That could have been a strategy. Mm-hmm. I think it's a way of thinking about it, though, because what's most important to him and what was most important to this program when he got here was that he set a culture, and he did that. So you can say what you want about his previous hires and maybe some of their shortcomings, but those guys in part help him set the culture that is Nebraska today. And before he got here, I would really question if there was a culture at Nebraska. There's no question.
He was bad on the
now.
offensive side of the ball. It was a complete failure in his first go around of hiring on the offensive side of the ball.
Absolutely.
And Donovan Raiola is an exception because he was retained.
Yes. I'm with you there. But I want to say, they set the culture and that was important. But now you're right. You're in the moment of where, okay, we got it. We're good. This is our program. Everyone knows the expectation. Now we got to go and get results. I agree with you. There's not like an obvious hire. There's not a ton of names you're going to throw out there. More than likely, it's going to be a person that we never heard of before. We're going to go and look back at the history and say, okay, they've done a pretty good job in the past.
It will not be Jonathan Rutledge.
So I want to
say that,
Jeff.
I do want to throw out a name here, though.
Well played.
I do want to throw out a name here, though.
Yeah.
And it's not that I want them to hire this guy. It's more so
a buddy.
It's more
like
so
you're just campaigning for a friend.
No. It's not
some Madden expert in Lincoln.
It's not so much that I want them to hire this specific guy. It's more so I want them to hire a guy like this. When I read whoever they hire, I want to read a guy who has a similar bio to Drew Cannon, who's at James Madison University, who's their current special teams coordinator. Cannon in 2018 was the Holy Cross special teams coordinator up until 2023. So he was a special teams coordinator for 5 years, okay? In his last year, in 2023, his unit ranked 20th nationally in kick return defense, and it was 17 yards per attempt. Last year at James Madison, JMU was 16th in average kick return. They were 40th in average punt return. In 2022, so he was still with Holy Cross at the time, they led the nation with 8 blocked punts, okay, his unit. I'm not saying Drew Cannon's the guy. They got to go and interview him. They got to go and get. They're probably not going to get Drew Cannon. He's been connected to the JMU head coach for a decade. But when whoever they hire, whoever they get, I want to read a bio like that. They've been a special teams coordinator for 7 years now. They have some actual pedigree. Their units have done some really good things in the nation. And it's from a team that maybe shouldn't be performing at that level. If they go out and hire like a Florida State special teams coach or an LSU special teams coach or a top caliber, top team special teams coach, that's great. I'm sure they got really good results, but they had top end athletes. If they were to go and hire a guy from a lower mid-level program who had high levels of performance, that tells me, oh, that's a lot of coaching. That's a lot of strategy. They know what they're doing.
Do they have somebody internally?
Maybe, but
you have to find a spot for Jamar Mosey.
We are out of the era of culture building, and we are in the era of merit for Nebraska football. Dana Holgorsen has a lot of merit.
Okay.
John Butler has a ton of merit.
So more than merit, go back to DGAF, the offensive coordinator. The connect the dots to Dana, who is the head coach of the offense, is Mark Scott at Baylor. So Mark Scott is running the special teams at Baylor, and he did the same thing at Houston under Dana.
Like I said,
Dana's voice resonates loud inside of the walls.
Absolutely.
So there, if you want to connect the dot guy of a connection to the staff, it would be that. But it's essentially, what do you want as a special teams? Do they have to have some recruiting chops? It's not an easy job because you have to be very organized. You are taking guys from offense and defense, whoever it is, whether the name you threw out, Mark Scott, Billy Bob Smith, whatever.
Yeah.
Nebraska has to get to a point with special teams. And again, special teams in Nebraska have been a crapshoot.
Yeah.
There have been some guys that we thought, man, they might be pretty good in that role. And they weren't very good, but they go somewhere else. Like, ironically, Ross Ells and John Papuchis, post-Nebraska, turned into fairly good special teams coaches at Michigan State and Florida State, respectively. But I want the guy that they hire. First of all, we don't hardly ever talk about them. And internally, they make it cool that you want to be on special teams.
Yeah.
Dave Tobe of Kansas City. And Kansas City has gotten really good special teams. Now, it helps to have a fantastic punter to go from Townsend to Ariza.
Yeah.
To have Harrison Butker, to have the athletes they have that return kicks. They make it cool to be on special teams. You have to make it fun where somebody says, man, I'd like to, I know I'm playing 60 snaps a game with my regular rotation. I'd like to go over and play on special teams. You have to find the special teams coach that makes it cool to be on special teams, that people volunteer to go, man, I'd like to be over there.
But I want to say this too. I agree with you, but that's also a head coach thing as well. like a head coach also has to, echo that as well. The head coach also has to push that up, because I'll tell you something right now. Bill Belichick, that was a guy, for all the demeanor and the weirdness of Bill Belichick, he made special teams cool. When he talks about
you're going to dominate special teams in North
Carolina,
Carolina,
about the 3 greatest players he ever coached, it's Tom Brady, it's Lawrence Taylor, and then it's Matt Slater, who was that 10-time Pro Bowler, all-pro special teams guy for New England, who was there all the time. When he mentions him, oh yeah, Matt Slater is one of the best players I ever coached. And he wasn't that great of a defensive, like he was a good cornerback, but he was a special teams guy. That comes from the top as well. So yes, the special teams coordinator has to make it a prideful thing to be on special teams, to play on special teams, but that also comes from the big man. Matt Rule also has to say, guys, we're taking this seriously. This is legit. I'm not doubting that he hasn't done that before, but whatever effort he put into that, to making it cool, to making it a great thing to be on special teams, not so much as a demotion as it is a prideful job to have, he needs to do a better job at that.
Hey, Rain Man, didn't Lawrence Taylor play on nearly every special teams on early in his career?
He volunteered. He wanted to.
Bill Belichick talked. Bill Belichick's got that great show, and he talked about how Taylor was a Hall of Fame special teamer as well. And it's culture, man.
I think Lawrence Taylor is one of the greatest players ever to play in the NFL.
I think
he might be he is in the top 3 of the greatest NFL players of all time, in my opinion.
I think it's
terrific in any given Sunday as well.
Him and Reggie White, pretty damn good for me.
Rest in peace.
I mean, those two are, when I think of greatest of all time, best football players of all time, those are my top 2.
All right, 28 past the hour. Ben Otte's going to join us top of the hour. We got Evan Bland in about an hour from the World Herald, and Jacob Bigelow has stopped by. Nebraska basketball after the biggest win of the year. Mick Cronin had some thoughts. Boy, talk about a nothing burger that we had nothing to do yesterday, so people wanted to comment on what Mick Cronin said post-game.
Yeah, I saw that. It's just a dumb statement. Just I don't know.
I think I get what I know what he was talking about. We'll get into that when we come back. We'll get into some Husker hoops with all of you. It's Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone.
That was a great point. Underdog is the best place to cash in on all your takes during the playoffs, which players are going off and which ones are ice cold. With over 5 million happy players and $2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performance. With their pick'em game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like yards, touchdowns, interceptions, more. It's that time of the year. Underdog is the only pick'em platform that puts the power to cash out in your hands. Now you can either keep writing with your entry or tap the Win Now button to cash out whenever you want. This week on Underdog, I am looking at the Cotton Bowl. Why? Because I'm just going to take Ohio State players to go over on everything because they are on a heater. Underdog is the best place to play pick'em. Download the app, sign up with promo code ZONE. It works, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code ZONE. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
All right, Captain on 1620 The Zone TV.
My dude.
In agreement? My captain. LT, greatest ever to play the game.
He was really damn good.
All-pro at 2 different positions. Look at all of his accomplishments. LT is the greatest to ever play the game in his opinion. I would second that.
Many quarterbacks still have nightmares.
Unbelievable.
You're not going to get any pushback from me.
And he just happened to be from the University of North Carolina.
Is it funny, though, like there is a difference between, like, greatest football player of all time and greatest quarterback of all time? And there kind of is a subset between the two in terms of, like, is, like Captain says, and you agree, and no pushback for me, that LT is the greatest football player ever. But then how do you compare that to Tom Brady, who was a quarterback who won 7 Super Bowls? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's like, who's like LT was all pro special teams and like defense.
LT
it's just weird. It's a weird
forever.
It's a little bit like baseball. Like baseball will never have a greatest, well, unless Shohei keeps doing what he does. But like for the longest time, there's never been a consensus greatest baseball player of all time because for just so many years, it spans so long. It's such a different game. With football, it's such a unique game in the fact that like there's a difference between greatest quarterback, greatest player, and it's like it's okay to say they're both and mend the two and be right.
Willie Mays would be the greatest of all time. Now, I think with the passing of the Sehe kid, I think the greatest living baseball player is Barry Bonds. I don't know if it was consensus, you're right, but Willie Mays was probably the one that would get mentioned the most.
We've talked about this. Barry could do it all. Everyone talks about what happened later. Yeah. Like he could do everything.
See, my biggest gripe with the whole Barry Bonds thing isn't necessarily, well, he's, just because you take steroids doesn't automatically make you a great player. My gripe with it is that he was a Hall of Famer before the steroid thing. I mean, he was incredible as a Pittsburgh Pirate. I mean, not only offensively, but defensively as well. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer on that alone before he even got to San Francisco. I would probably say Barry or Willie Mays is a good one. I mean, I think the older crowd might throw Ted Williams in there, or Babe is always going to be in a conversation for people. I think with Shohei though, and I didn't anticipate us doing like a Shohei Ohtani segment on the show, but like if Shohei continues to hit the way that he has hit and then throws really well for another maybe 5-6 seasons, it's going to be really hard.
So I made this case. We had a discussion earlier in the year or last year about it was actually after Willie Mays passed away. If Ohtani wins, you're saying 4 to 5 more years. If he gets back on the mound, I'm saying if he wins a Cy Young,
it's over.
Then he is the greatest of all time.
I remember I was trying to explain. This was early on. This was like year 2 of Ohtani. It was year 2 or year 3 of Ohtani. How great he was, because I already was saying this guy's he has the ability to be the greatest of all time. And I was sitting with a friend of mine. He's like, I don't know, like just because you're like an average, a slightly above average, a good pitcher, and you can hit. Like I don't know if that automatically. I go. It's during Jose.
He's not an average pitcher.
Well,
though.
He's above average. But he was saying just because you're above average, like he's not the best pitcher in the league. I go, I get it. Jose Abreu was in his MVP year. I go, look at Abreu right there, like he's on the screen. I go, imagine if he was pitching tomorrow after just hitting 2 doubles and a home run tonight. Like that's what that is. You cannot beat that value. I mean, he's already worth $40 million as a hitter.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. He's got a shot, man, and that's incredible to say in the game of baseball, which is. It's hard, but LT, what a great combo. I mean, Taylor is incredible.
All right, there was a comment made on Saturday after Nebraska got their biggest win of the year against UCLA by Mick Cronin, who I think probably away from the cameras and away from the basketball court, he might be a nice guy. My good friend Michael Lewis left Nebraska and went and worked for him at UCLA. Had nothing but positive things to say about him. Now Coach Lewis at Ball State as the head coach. But Cronin always comes across on interviews as just that suit is way too tight.
No.
Like, hey, loosen up, smile, have some fun. He did one time when they were in the bubble and they had a nice little run and they were winning games in the NCAA tournament. His dad was there and he like, oh my God, Mick Cronin's got a personality. But his personality looked like their basketball they played on Saturday. very rockish.
Yeah.
Rock fightish.
He looked pissed.
So we had a lot of time, I guess, yesterday to talk about a nothing burger, in my opinion. So Mick Cronin, after the game, was asked about PBA. There's Hilton magic. There was a little PBA magic. I mean, Nebraska plays differently at home. They have a confidence at home. And also, this is not a new thing. I want to stand up for the Nebraska basketball fan that has been kicked in the nuts more than any other fan base that follows a Nebraska athletic program. But we are the most loyal people. We buy the tickets. We go to the games. It wasn't like Devaney Center was a morgue and there was nobody going to the games. Yeah. Even bad basketball, people went. People want Nebraska basketball to succeed so bad. They've invested so much into it, and they still keep coming. And it blows me away that we all keep paying the prices when the return on investment has not matched it. But it has been there, and people are loyal, and people are loud, and they know what it means. There is a of the fans and that team when they play in that building. And so now they've won 20 in a row. And to get to where Nebraska needs to go this year, you got to continue to hold serve at home. So after the game, and Nebraska wins a weird game. Best way to describe it, not a rock fight.
It was a weird game.
It was a game of runs.
I've never seen anything like that, where it literally was, a 7-0, then it was 9, it was 15-0, then another 15-0, then a 9-0. It was something.
But Nebraska found a way to win that game. So after the game, Cronin comes into the postgame. He's also one of those coaches, like NBA guys, that will change out of their suit and they'll put on like comfy clothes.
Yeah.
So he shows up and they're asking him about PBA, and Nebraska's won 20 in a row. This was his quote. Yeah, I don't really buy. He was asked about the crowd, and he interrupted. I'll ask Bigelow who asked the question, but he interrupted the question, and he said, "Yeah, I don't really believe in that stuff. I believe in coaching and execution and players. I just don't believe in that stuff." And some people got upset. They got a little bit triggered about what he said. Was he taking a crack at the crowd? Which
I get what he's saying.
Now I was not there on Saturday, but the person that used my seats said, it was packed, but it wasn't like, ear ringing. It was a good crowd. They were engaged, but it was a tough game to be a fan because it was such a choppy game.
It was.
So,
and the foul calls were bad too. It just felt like it was a weirdly officiated game, and it watching it seemed like a lot of calls took the energy out of the building. Yeah. And also too, it was It was a little bit like this in the Wisconsin game before they made the comeback, even before they started losing by a lot in the Wisconsin game. When you're in that environment and you're playing a ranked team and it's an important game, it's stressful, right? Yeah. When you're playing a non-ranked team, when you're playing in Indiana or a team you probably should beat, or a Northwestern, there's a lot of energy because it's like, come on, we got to win this game. I've been in there when they're playing ranked teams under this era of really good basketball, it's a little tense. It's a little, you're white knuckling the steering wheel, a little bit. So
I think there were two things with what he said, because the people took this as a slight at Nebraska. I think two things. He was talking to his team. They didn't play well.
No.
Okay. So he's talking to his team with that comment about, hey, don't worry about the home court advantage. Don't worry about the crowd. I think they still have to go to Mackey, among other places. So I think he was talking to his team. That also led to this. I think in a roundabout way, he was complimenting Nebraska. That Nebraska doesn't need the crowd to win because that's a good team that Fred has. They play the right way. They play the hard way, and they play better than us. Instead of taking, for people that thought, oh my God, screw Cronin, what's he saying about us? I thought his comment was twofold in both of those. Because his big thing is players play, and the crowd doesn't play the game, which is true. Now, you get on a roll, the crowd can impact you, and it can impact officials. Maybe you get some homer calls. But I thought that's what he was talking about. He was talking to his team, but also in a roundabout way. He was saying, that's a good Nebraska team we got beat by today. But he didn't want to come out and go, well, Nebraska was the much better team.
I think that's an interesting way of looking at it. I think for me, his comment was the crowd wasn't the reason we went 4 of 28 from 3. Plain and simple. And they got plenty of, and that was part of Nebraska's plan. And it's a little part of Nebraska's plan where they're going to really guard the paint. And if you're going to be a flamethrower from deep that night and you're going to beat them, then you're going to beat them. That kind of is what it is.
And make or miss sport.
And UCLA, they had a lot of makeable threes that they ended up missing. And to Cronin's point, I don't think, because there were a couple loud fans in the back screaming at the top of their lungs was the reason why, his guys, why Clark missed 3 threes, why Andrews missed 3 threes, why Sebastian Mack missed 4 threes, why Kobe Johnson missed 5 threes. It wasn't necessarily the crowd. It was they weren't making their shots. And so, yeah, I think, look, he's a certain guy. He's a certain
didn't come across a very likable guy.
No, but he likes to kick his team in the butt. And I think he was kicking his team in the butt right there. And I'm sure that they got a lot of that message in the locker room and in private conversations as well. I mean, I saw it. I go, obviously they're going to be the pitchforks are going to be out, and they're going to be really offended fans who are prideful about the noise they make at PBA and the effort they bring and the energy they bring at PBA. And Nebraska fans,
you're high-fiving yourself when you walk out of the building. Go, man, I did a great job as a fan.
There's
today.
a lot of back taps, on the way
man. Hey, Gary,
but man,
you were up today when you took off your shirt and started helicoptering the T-shirt. Good job. I even think Pavelka noticed you. That guy up in 214. Nice job.
But look, you talk about a team.
Shirtless people indoors. Are you a little bit like
embarrassed?
Like what throws you off more? People that wear sunglasses indoors or shirtless?
No, I think shirtless sunglasses.
Okay.
I think sunglasses probably throws me off more. But like you talk about a team or a fan base that has been beaten down and bruised and has just wanted their basketball team to have a watchable product on the court for the last couple of years now, and they finally have it. I'm not going to make fun of them for thinking that they make a difference in the game or for them being loud or them going crazy. Heck, they deserve it. Pat yourself on the back. If you think you affected the game, good for you. And I'm going to tell you something right now. There have been points where that crowd has definitely affected the game at PBA. That has
Wisconsin last year, definitely.
Without a doubt. Purdue. Where they kept the energy going the entire time. I mean, people were cheering and standing. I mean, there are points. I just don't, like you said, that was a weird game. I don't think that was one of those games where the PBA crowd really flipped things around. And I get where Cronin is coming from, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to be the one to be like, don't cheer or don't be prideful in the noise that you make. Heck, do whatever you want, man.
Hey, doesn't, because you saw the promo if you were watching football yesterday, for Friday night basketball. Like Friday night, we talked about this on Friday. Friday night basketball is becoming a thing. The Big East, the Fox is promoting, hey, playing on Friday night is a big deal.
Good for them. We need the stuff to watch.
Nothing says Big Ten basketball like what their Friday night featured game was being promoted yesterday. UCLA at Maryland.
I think that college
strikes
basketball
me as Big Ten basketball.
I think college basketball is becoming my next favorite product to watch on TV right now. I think after football, after both variations, college football and the NFL, I would rather watch college basketball more than any other product in sports. And I do think, at least amongst my friends who are younger, that's becoming a commonality. That it's more so, hey, when you're on the TV, what's the college basketball game to watch? And it's a really good product. And I'm very impressed with how college basketball coaches, even through NIL and the draft and these really young players who are really just trying to get out there in 1 year and be a one and done, how they still have been able to keep together the core roots of how they play basketball, how they play team basketball, how every team plays a system. Even though there's been this invasion of like the NBA style is different than the college basketball style, and there are NBA prospects who want to play college basketball but also want to boost their draft resume, coaches haven't given that up. They've given up a lot, but they haven't given up the style of play of college basketball that I think is entertaining for people. People like to see the ball swing around. They like to see hard defense. They like to see effort, which is why the NBA product is falling and the college basketball product is rising right now.
I think Nebraska basketball is more likable because they're defensive minded.
I couldn't agree more.
Compared to being racehorse basketball.
Couldn't agree more.
I mean, that's Fred Hoiberg's transformation from his first 3 years to his next 3. It's not only a job saver, but it also is the right move that has allowed them to have this kind of success that they've had. Is he changed, man. Kudos to Fred. He changed his staff. He changed his mindset. And it's not all about one guy. It's not about one guy on the floor. It's not about one guy as the head coach. Look who runs the huddles.
Yeah.
Nate Lesnar is a really, really good coach that Fred made a really, really good addition. This program got better when the Teddy Allens and the Matt Abdelmassis left.
I couldn't agree more.
And Trev kicked Fred in the butt. And I mean, I've said that before on the air. Trev and Fred had a come to Jesus about finances and other things. And Fred responded, and Fred took control of his program. And as a result, we're sitting here on January 6th, and you can honestly believe that Nebraska is good enough to go back-to-back years of the NCAA tournament.
It's something to me. It speaks volume to me when Fred Hoiberg consistently talks about Emmanuel Bandamel. Because when you think about it, Emmanuel Bandamel was an SMU transfer. He wasn't this guy that got brought up into the program who was a 5-year dude who developed with Hoiberg. He was just a dude that he brought in to be this stingy two-guard defensive player. But he talks about him a lot, and he talked about him last week. And it got me going, and I started talking to other people, like, why does he keep bringing up Manny Bando? And the reason he does is because he believes he turned the program around. And he turned the culture around, and having guys like Griesel and having guys like Bandamel who put a lot of effort into defense, who put a lot of effort into winning, who wasn't necessarily about their stats and how much they scored and where they were going after Nebraska, but it was more so about what they're going to do at Nebraska. That attitude reciprocated with a lot of the guys who are still on that team, like a Jawan Gary, like a Sam Hoiberg, who have continued that culture and have passed that down to the likes of Bryce Williams, to Rink Mask, to now it's just a part of who they are, and you got guys like Connor Segan and Raleigh Worcester who have delved into that. And so to me, Nate Lesnar is a big part of that. But that group who didn't make the NCAA tournament but had that massive run to end the year and almost basically save Fred's job, that was a massive, massive part and a massive moment in that program.
Yeah, I think you could make a case, and when he needs to go, he goes, and Bryce took over in the second half, that Sam Hoiberg is the most important player over the last 3 years. Sam Griesel and Derek Walker were humongous, matching those together to start their transformation in the locker room. But what has been the common bond over the last couple of years? Sam Hoiberg. Sam Hoiberg was Nebraska's MVP. And then the second MVP for me on Saturday, and this kind of shows you this is how Nebraska basketball is built, Andrew Morgan.
Yeah.
We're not talking, I mean, Bryce Williams had 16. Don't overlook that.
Sure.
And Alpha Bryce came out at moments. But when Sam Hoiberg and Andrew Morgan in a game in which you beat the 15th ranked team in the country, I think they're the two top players. That's a feather in the cap for Fred Hoiberg.
And they made big shots.
Yeah.
And back to Hoiberg, you see a little kid, like he's a smaller guy. He's a smaller dude, but he's in shape. He runs around with his hair on fire, and they don't look like Fred coaches him hard. It doesn't matter what his last name is. Fred coaches him probably harder than anyone else on that team. And the fact that Sam responds, and the fact that Sam puts in the effort, and he's not physically gifted. He's not this alpha athlete. He's not a guy who really has the gifted ability to score all the time. But the fact that he's playing and the manner in which he's playing, it goes around. It's contagious. He's a contagious basketball player, and it's great for the program.
We'll talk to Jacob Bigelow coming up at 9 o'clock. His thoughts on Nebraska. Big one tomorrow night at Iowa against the Hawkeyes. Big week, both road games at Mackey Arena on Sunday, where Purdue has won 25 in a row. Do not rank Nebraska today. Do not rank Nebraska. I don't want to see an email from Seamus going, Nebraska is ranked for the first time since. Just keep that in the drafts.
Okay, I like it.
Better no one knows under the radar.
Yeah.
Ben Audio will join us coming up in about 15 minutes on 1620 The Zone. All right, football. North Dakota State, which Marty Brown, former Creighton Prep running back, who was the freshman of the year in FCS, Cole Payton, Jackson Williams, among others, playing tonight for North Dakota State. Then you have a couple of days off where you can watch some basketball, and then Thursday, semifinal, Friday, semifinal, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, NFL football playoffs. We're coming off the heels of Week 18, where half the teams in the league treated it like Week 4 of the preseason.
A good amount of them did. I didn't even watch.
Cowboys did that all 18 weeks.
Dun-dun-dun!
I didn't watch a lot of the afternoon slate, and I'm going to be honest with you, I was wildly disappointed with Sunday Night Football. Like the fact, like I wanted that game to come down to the absolute last minute, and the fact that I was able to be like, okay, no, I don't need to watch the fourth quarter of this game. I'm going to bed. I have a show in the morning.
I even stayed up. I was pissed.
I mean, man, I'll tell you right now, Alex Anzalone might, if they end up making a massive, massive run into the Super Bowl and win it, Alex Anzalone might win Super Bowl MVP. So, like, the impact he had on that game yesterday with the Polish Hammer just coming back, I mean, it was.
Well, their defense, they had their blitz happy, but they were even getting home with a 4-man rush. They had Sam Darnold spooked.
Zadarius Smith, man, was playing like Green Bay's Zadarius Smith out there. It was. Talk about a team that just loves to play with each other, and talk about a team that just loves their coaching staff and just is all focused on winning. And man, I sit back and I think about how in the hell did Amon-Ra St. Brown fall to the third round? How the hell did Amon-Ra fall? How did 12 wide receivers get drafted before that guy? I mean, you're talking about a modern day product who went to USC. All that guy is known is winning. All he's known is production. And the fact that he just plummeted, and guys that you probably don't even play in the league
Patriots fans
anymore.
are saying the same things about McConkey.
Lad, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just how
but
does
they
that
traded, and McConkey the Chargers picked him up with that trade, and their spot in the third round.
I mean, it's and let's shout out one more guy. I don't know how much time we're gonna spend on football, but like Brock Bowers is. I thought, man, 11's is kind of high, for a team that's already got Michael Mayer, who's a pretty damn good tight end out of Notre Dame, who they drafted in the second round the year before. Like, that's kind of a high pick. Boy, was I wrong. I mean, Brock Bowers has this first. I mean, he continues it, man.
Play for the Raiders.
He might go down as one of the greatest tight ends of all time, and he's already had the best statistical season.
Too bad he has to play for the Raiders.
Well, they're going to get a quarterback now. I don't know when they're going to get. I mean, the quarterback market's a little.
They going to have Kirk Cousins?
I believe in Kirk.
The quarterback class this year might rival 2022.
In being,
there's nothing. I mean, that was Kenny Pickett and Desmond Ridder were your top two picks.
Do you know how disappointing that's been? I mean, coming into the year, we thought it was going to be great. It's going to be bad.
Even though two quarterbacks will probably go in the top 3.
It's not. I mean,
Ben Audie from the BA Coaches Show to put a wrap on this football season. Will join us next on 1620 The Zone. Mean son. All right, halfway through on a Monday, as we welcome in basketball expert Ben Audi from the BA Coaches Show. Good morning. First of all, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
I have violated the Larry David rule. Saying Happy New Year is over. Do you have the Christmas tree down at your house?
Yeah, it got taken down this weekend.
Okay, because today is, I did not know this, today is National Take Your Christmas Tree Down Day.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it seems like a long time from December 25th to January 6th.
I still think a Christmas tree is a January 1st thing. I think it's still appropriate. It's still the holidays up until January 1st.
Well, maybe get scorned if it's January 6th.
Well, obviously.
As you know, this is a safe place, and we've enjoyed our conversations this fall, now leading into the winter. Can we talk about a tweet you had the other day?
Oh, boy. Okay.
It was rough,
some are saying the worst tweet of all time, and I think it's probably one of the bravest I've put out there.
Okay. I like where you're going here.
I love the spin zone on that. It's a great spin zone from just a bad tweet to a brave tweet. Ben, do you want to reveal to our listeners who may not be following you on Twitter what your tweet was?
Yeah, it was basically, it was one of those things that's like, share your most unpopular sports opinion or something. And I had revealed that in my personal top 5 NBA players, I do not have Michael Jordan on that list.
Wow.
What?
What is your top 5? You did reveal it later. Can we get that?
I'm listening.
Yeah. So I have LeBron number 1. That's my guy.
Totally
that
fine.
Is my guy. I have the great overlooked Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I think he's absolutely fantastic as well.
Great pilot too.
Right. Okay. Then behind him, I have Wilt. I think that's I don't know why that gets a lot of hate. To me, that's like a good. Yeah. I think so far so good, right? Am I going crazy?
Sure. Go 4 and 5 real quick. Where's 4 and 5 at?
Kobe and Bill Russell is where I got.
Okay, where is Jordan?
Somewhere in probably 6 to 10, probably.
Oh.
What are they?
Okay.
Yeah.
Gary?
I know this is kind of awkward things here because I know that this is very.
Okay, I don't want to dwell on Michael being in the top 5, not being in the top 5, but I do want to ask you a question that you included Wilt. Do you guys ever think about this? If Wilt Chamberlain really slept with 20,000 women,
oh my God,
where are them kids?
Great point.
This is a very
Sean Kemp wants to know.
Point. This is a very good point. I do. I think that's an interesting question, and maybe they're out there, or maybe some things are just embellished. Just kind of like I feel like some things get embellished about a lot of NBA players.
My thing too is that we have a video.
Scorned Kansas City King, former Kansas City King fan Ben Audi living in Kansas City.
Another thing too is that we have video of the moon landing, right? We have video of a lot of things that arguably we probably shouldn't have video of. There's not one iota of tape of Wilt's 100-point game. We've never been able to find one picture, one reel, one anything.
He's holding the sign.
We just have, we're not no in-game photo. We just have.
There's grainy video out there.
Is there?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those conspiracy theories.
This is a good point. This is a good point by you, Matt. I can't push back on you too much on that. I just also look at just like the crazy statistical averages he had for his entire season.
He was playing against dentists and mechanics, but I mean,
hey, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You play who you play.
Yeah, you should. Hey, look at that. You sound like the college football.
Let's
committee.
do some hypothetical, but people need to really. I mean, if you really think he slept with 20,000 women, where them kids at? Or he ain't batting very well. All right. Well, first let me ask you, how much snow do you guys have?
I don't, in terms of inches, I'm not quite sure. I just haven't really went out and measured. I know there's a lot of things closed down here, like banks are closed, which is like that really never happens down here. So schools are closed, so I'm home with my kids another day. And I don't know quite how much, but it's really icy down here. It's SH show down here. So in terms of weather and ice and all that. So I'm not quite sure. I know we have multiple inches just looking in my backyard right now and seeing where it's up at on my garage.
You don't live on the Missouri side, do you?
Oh, no.
Okay,
no.
then
No,
you have
one
hope for
actually
clear
wants to live
roads by
there.
March.
All right, let's. There was a lot of stuff that happened over the weekend. One of the things that Matt and I have not gotten into, Thomas Fidone is leaving Nebraska after 4 years. I think he has a fear of another major injury that would prevent him from playing in the NFL. So he is off to the NFL with a what-if career. As you look at his 4-year career that included 2 major knee injuries, is there blame to be spread around about why his career did not pan out at Nebraska?
I think so, 100%. And I think even just in particular to this year specifically, because obviously in the past, we've had all the, knee injuries and all that. And, it's hard to blame anybody for those. But like, even just in terms of this year, there are things even after injuries that Thomas Fidone can do very well. And I feel like for a good chunk of the season here, that was not, he was not used in a way that was very good. I remember after the UTEP game, and I want to say it was partially after the Colorado game, I was like, clearly these, horizontal passes to Thomas Fidone aren't working, but I think we're using them to try and maybe set something up, not show the whole playbook in week 1. Then we got towards like midway towards the back half of the season, and that's still how he was being used. Then obviously when Dana Holgorsen comes in, he kind of likes the other guys, and now we are where we are, I guess. But I do think there is some blame to go around, and I just think it's partially when it comes to the offensive coordinator that we started the season with. I don't think he was really being used in the best ways for him. I think he should have been used as more vertical going down the field. I'm not necessarily arguing for seam routes, but like deeper crosses or digs and things like that, not necessarily just going straight out to the flat and making him have to go make a move on someone. That just wasn't the right way to be used. I will say that was the biggest whiff that I've had on this season. The first time I ever came on 1620 and talked to you, Gary, I spoke very highly. I was expecting very big things. You go back and look at that clip now, probably doesn't look very good, because I thought he was going to be like the ultimate third down target, and ultimately that was wrong, but I feel like a lot of that was just part of the way he was used for a good chunk of this year.
So why, as the Tyler Warrens of the world are prospering at that position, in a position that football now values and they pay heavily in the NFL, why do you think over the course of multiple coordinators that Nebraska can't figure out how to use the athletes like, I don't know, and Carter Nelson is still too early, but from the watching Ethan Carter this weekend to Thomas Fidone, why do you think Nebraska football has struggled utilizing the tight end when everybody else, it seems like in college football, finds a way to use the tight end as a hybrid and not just as a simple inline blocker?
I agree, and I think that's a very good question. That is something that I do have expectations changes under Dana Holgorsen going into 2025 and hopefully going forward. I think that's an interesting question. I don't quite know, because like you said, like you look across college football and obviously in the NFL, but even if you just look at college football, it's very much like the tight end's a dynamic position now. Like go look at Penn State, how they're using their tight end. I'm not arguing that we have one of those guys on you know what I mean? But like just the way that tight ends get used, I just don't know. And this is going to come out like worse than what I want it to mean, but like, have we just had like bad offensive coordinators that don't know how to use the tight end? I think that might be a real thing, because I'm not going to make an argument we've had, the best offensive coordinators here, at least in their time here anyway. So I think that's an interesting question, because I can't quite figure it out, because to me, I would, I think the tight end's a very dynamic position that you can. For us.
Gary and I haven't talked about it yet, and I think we'll have a little bit of a conversation about, but I want to get your opinion on it first. So in 2023, and I went back and I did the numbers, 2023, in their transfer class, Nebraska didn't pick up one non-Power 5 guy. It was all Power 5 guys coming in as transfers. In 2024, they had 2 non-Power 5 guys. This year now, with the acquiring of Marquise Watson-Trent and Jameer Khan over the weekend, they're now up to 5 non-Power 5 guys who are going to be joining their team. Do you think this kind of is there any indication of why this is a change of philosophy? Do you think it might be a coincidence, or do you think this is kind of Matt Rule maybe adjusting his transfer portal recruiting style after having a couple of years under his belt doing it?
Right. That's a very good question. I want to tell you. Obviously, here's my kind of, I think, thought process. Is part of it is that I think we saw all across college football this year and a little bit last year, but especially this year, that the talent is kind of more spread out throughout all college football, in my opinion. There's some really good players, not necessarily playing in power conferences. But I do have to say, I think part of the other thing, and this is something I also have thought about a little bit, is bringing in some of these guys that are leaving from some of the power conference schools. Like, I'll just throw, I don't know, someone leaving like a Texas or something, or might come in and there's a reason they're leaving. They didn't get a ton of playing time, whatever. When we're bringing in some of these guys from the non-power conference, schools, we're bringing in their studs. We're bringing in the guys that know how to come in, know how to compete. So I think there's something to that as well, of not necessarily just, like I said, talent's pretty spread throughout college football. I think there might be something to bringing in a winner, bringing in someone that knows how to come and compete and, be just a dog for us. So I think there might be something with that, just some adjustments, like you said, and Matt Rule's kind of transfer philosophy here of, obviously you're still going to bring in dudes from the big schools, but not necessarily just looking at where they came from. It's more like, hey, this dude, I don't care what level he was at. That's why I kind of feel the way I do I feel good about Jalen Gramstad coming back. Is like, hey, we have a dude that no matter what the level has shown, he knows how to compete, knows how to, read a defense, knows how to beat a tackle, knows how, do whatever. So I do think there's definitely some value in that.
Speaking of him, so he is coming back. So the Human Victory Cigar will be back for another year. He might actually be a player coach. That could be in a roundabout way. But would you feel comfortable with him being QB2 in 2025?
I think so. Yeah. Because for me, that was a big piece. I wanted to see what happened, that if he ended up moving on, and he has been very open about him wanting to be a coach. And I definitely think he would have some sort of role on maybe Nebraska staff if that's what he wanted. And so, some sort of low role. Cause I think that was part of the reason that, he decided to come and everything like that. But I wanted to see what happened with him before I decided how badly we needed to go figure out, bringing in another transfer. So I would feel comfortable with the situation, just because, again, I don't care what level of football it's at. Having a player that has gone post high school and shown the ability to read a defense, shown the ability to go compete is, I think, a big thing. And that's something that he did show. Granted, I know it's at the NAIA level. It's not, it's not NCAA football. Like, it's not even D2 level, but I do think that he went out there and dominated. He did what he was supposed to do at that level. And he's obviously a very smart player. I don't think there's any denying that. Even if you go, just watch him on the sideline during these last years, like, you could tell, like, he was even coaching Dylan up in some of these moments. So I do think he's definitely a smart player. I think he's a player that I would feel comfortable with. Now, if they decide to go get someone else at QB2, I'm not going to be like super upset, but I would feel comfortable with him as the second quarterback going into next year.
So far, 14 transfer portal commits. You got to think that they're not quite done yet. I wouldn't expect another 14, but maybe a player here as the portal continues to go on. Ben, so far with these 14 guys, how do you feel about Nebraska's transfer portal class, and where do you think they're going to need to hit, down this kind of last stretch of this first transfer portal period?
Yeah, overall, I feel pretty good about this, transfer class coming in. I think it is, but to me, I'm still waiting for. We got to get an offensive tackle. We need a big offensive tackle. I feel like, to me, that's kind of where I want to say, like, I'm excited about the guys coming in, but if we do not bring in an offensive tackle, particularly like a bigger name offensive tackle, someone, I'm going to be hesitant to say that this is a super exciting transfer class, because yes, there are some exciting players in there, but we definitely need to get the offensive tackle. We definitely need a big one, in my opinion. And we didn't get the one from Washington State that's following his coach to Wake Forest. That makes kind of sense to me.
Too, yep.
Yeah. So, following his position coach to Wake Forest. So I have to go look and see what's still out there. I know, and I think there's a player from Alabama that just had entered.
I hope, because they do have money set aside for an offensive lineman, I hope they do not overreact to Elijah Pritchett. I don't think he's in the portal from Alabama, and he started last year at Alabama. I think that would be throwing money to the wind.
Interesting.
Okay, and like I said, I haven't looked super deep into it. Just been busy with stuff the last couple of days, so I'll look into it. But I definitely do hope that we do go get some sort of big offensive tackle to really round out this class. If that happened, I would feel much better. Not that I don't feel good about the guys we're already bringing in. Without getting that big offensive tackle secured in a transfer portal situation, I'm just feeling a little uneasy about it. So I feel a little hesitant to be too praiseful right now, if that makes any sense.
Ben, as always. All right, so now that we're into the off season, and you're dabbling into some basketball, what do you have? What do you have coming up?
So if you go to the VA Coaches Show on YouTube, you can go find me any of the social media platforms. And I just also want to give a quick shout out. I'm now one of the hosts on a Husker podcast called Generation Red. There's me and 3 other guys on there. So if you go check that out on YouTube, Generation Red, they've had a podcast for a while. Ken has one of the craziest Husker podcast studios. I've been sitting in that studio. I sat in there in like July. It's one of the craziest ones. So yeah, we're doing I joined their show, so I'm on their show as well. Doing some film breakdown and that sort of stuff that I kind of geek out over when it comes to Husker football.
Great to hear that. Those are good dudes. As always, we appreciate it. Stay safe, stay warm, and stay off of Twitter with basketball takes.
Hey, I'll do my best.
I appreciate it, my friend.
Thanks, Ben.
That's Ben.
I love Audie. That's a rough one, though. That was.
They can't all be bangers.
I don't know. Like, I get
People are ready to pull a January 6th on Ben's Michael Jordan take.
I get it. Like,
storm his Twitter account.
Having LeBron over Jordan, I do think there is an argument there. I do think you can make an argument. It depends on what generation you're born in. I'm a part of the generation that he was the dude in, and so I understand with Ben watching him and I've watched LeBron grow. And so I do, despite the fact that I am from Chicago, I do have a soft spot for LeBron because I've just loved basketball. But he's
not the GOAT.
But to have him outside your top 5, that's tough.
I don't know. Maybe it's
a brave tweet. I'll give him that.
Maybe if they made a movie about him. Maybe if they did a shoe that it might change Ben's opinion. I'm not sure.
That's one I gotta watch. I gotta watch that. Have you watched that? Air? Did you watch that movie?
Yeah.
How good was that?
A great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched Goodfellas last night.
Yes.
Yeah?
Way to go, Matt.
And
don't kill Joey Bats. That's my takeaway. Don't kill a made man. That's my number one lesson that I've learned. Whenever I'm in the streets of whatever, I just have to make sure if I ever do partake in that, I got to be like, are you made? Are you a made man?
He's a funny guy.
Great. Don't kill Joey Bats.
Nebraska, stay away from Elijah Pritchett. I know he's Alabama. He's in the portal.
Yeah.
He was a turnstile this past year. There's a reason he's in the portal. Do not overpay for him.
I've learned with the whole Caden Proctor situation that that whole SEC offensive lineman deal, if they're leaving, if they're coming, there's a reason they're leaving.
Now, I don't think Alabama would take him back.
Pritchard? Yeah. I'll take your word for it, man. I mean, it's always a little, whenever those Georgia or Alabama guys go, there definitely is a little bit, there's because if Alabama or Georgia wants guys to stay, I feel like they have the power and the money and the ability and the coaching staff to be like, hey, no, don't go anywhere. When those guys leave, there always seems to be a little bit something in the water.
Yeah, I mean, people get excited when, you get a guy out of a portal from Texas A&M or Texas or Alabama. You know what I get excited about? Guys from Georgia Southern. You know what I get excited about? Man. I get excited that I am more interested in Watson Trent than I am Winery. Because one guy's got 2,500 career snaps playing college football. Now, the other one could have a much higher upside, and he should, but I like production over betting and paying for what might happen. That's how I would spend my NIL if I was in the NIL world and they said, hey, who do you want to spend on? I want to spend on production that I've seen, but I want to spend on good production. And Watson Trent has good production, even if he played at Georgia Southern. You know what? He would have been the second best player in PFF on Nebraska's roster this year on defense behind Ty.
He is, I think, the best pickup that they have in this entire transfer portal class. Yes, I would put him above Dane Key. Okay? We're talking about a guy who was the best in his conference, the best, the 2024 Defensive Player of the Year. This guy has played a ton of football. He's a dude who's a little bit different from what Nebraska has been recruiting. Nebraska doesn't really go out and get guys. I mean, he's only 5'11". There's a reason why he was a 2-star prospect. There's a reason why this guy was no Power 5 offers. 0 Power 5 offers coming out of high school. He worked his way to the top. He played football on his way to the top. He's a smart dude. He's a smart player. You don't get over 300 career tackles without being a smart player. You don't do that.
It'll be interesting. He's got great speed, and there'll be more speed on that side of the ball. And Nebraska across the board has to be faster.
I agree.
I think Nebraska's been a slow team for 2 years, but defensively, they're going to be different. And you pair him in a linebacker room that all of a sudden, a month ago, you went, oh, geez, they're in trouble. 2, McCullough, Watson Trent. I saw Shavers. I like McGahee.
Maybe Genatone.
I like Rob Dvorak, who is one of the better position coaches on that staff. All of a sudden, the linebacker room, you go, oh, okay. Interesting to watch, though, because he is a little bit undersized to play inside linebacker in the Big Ten. He's 5'11", about, 225? But he's got enormous speed, and he loves to get involved in the run game. And that may help him. But I thought it was a great pickup because I like production. 2,500 career snaps. Plus, he already knows what it's like to win at Memorial Stadium.
Oh, yeah.
He actually helped do good for Nebraska before he said yes on Saturday.
That's a great way of looking at it. And here's another thing, too. It's all, like you said, it's all about the production. It's all about the speed. But when I watch those college football playoff teams, the teams that are still playing, the biggest difference that I've seen is the speed on the defensive end compared to Nebraska. Mm-hmm. And so I agree with you. They need to be faster. They need to be more aggressive.
Yeah. Nebraska's a slow team. They've been a slow team.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this right now.
Look at Notre Dame.
I was about to say.
Notre Dame made Georgia look slow. Ohio State made Oregon look slow.
Yeah. You watch those teams play, and you realize, wow, Nebraska doesn't have the horses, doesn't have the anticipation, doesn't have the urgency that this team has. It needs to change, and hopefully John Butler changes that for him.
Evan Bland of the World Herald is going to stop by coming up next. Also, Jacob Bigelow. We'll talk some basketball. Creighton is off. They're on an 8-day off before they go on the road and they play at Hinkle Fieldhouse. That game got moved to Fox. It was going to be on FS1. But because Fox doesn't have a playoff game on Monday or on Saturday, that's on Big Fox. Benetti is on the call.
Ooh,
God, better than Brando.
I will listen to Jason Benetti call cricket. I don't care.
I didn't see Jimmy. Did Tim Brando take any selfies while he was at PBA?
Oh, there were some selfies.
Yeah, I bet there were.
Yeah, some Dan Whitney selfies.
Hey, his 40th anniversary, man. Good for Tim Brando.
Did he tell everybody that?
They did a big graphic.
Yeah,
during the game. Yeah, there was a massive graphic, and they honored him and everything.
Did he name drop everybody?
I don't know. I didn't. I just saw the graphic was on there. I wasn't watching with volume.
Evan Bland coming up next.
It's a grind. I tell you, that's all he does. How about doing a show?
Join the VIP club. Sign up for 1620 The Email. You'll be the first to know all the exciting content that's happening on 1620 The Zone, including sports news, contests, promotions, and more. Sign up today at 1620thezone.com.
Hey, Joy Taylor is trending. What do you think today is going to be like at Fox Sports? That was
HR be busy.
That was quite.
Poor Skip.
So I back in the day before she became big.
Oh, really?
I knew Joy Taylor.
Didn't know that. That's cool.
So she used to be a bartender in Miami, and then she would be on the ticket in the mornings with a really, really good guy who lost his gig, Jonathan Zaslow. They had a really good morning show. And I was telling you guys a little bit off air, back in the day when LeBron was with the Heat.
Sure.
I'd go and cover a lot of games. You go in the locker room, and there wouldn't be as many national guys around LeBron. And, it'd be pretty cool.
Sure.
But all of the Miami media people like Le Batard, and that's where I first met Stu Gatz, and then Joy Taylor and Zaz, you'd always see him at the Miami games, and Zaz was involved in the broadcast coverage. But yeah, I met Joy Taylor a couple of times, had like conversations.
Oh, wow.
And then I guess once she moved to Fox, she kind of cut off all ties with other media people in Miami.
That kind of seems.
But she is trending along with Mike Vrabel this morning.
Oh, that's an interesting duo.
Not related on the allegations at Fox that came out yesterday.
God, I can't wait for First Things First today with Wilds and Broussard and Kevin Wright and those guys, because I didn't see their name or see that they were trending or that they were involved in that, but those guys are pretty funny dudes. So we'll see what happens on their show today, or with the newly Danny Parkins, the 670 The Score
Chicago guy.
Yeah.
Best station in Chicago.
Shout out 610 in Kansas City.
He was in 610 too. Talk about a grinder, man.
Nick Wright was in Kansas City, and then Parkins.
Well, so that's how that happened.
They went back home to Chicago.
Those two, Wright helped connect to Coward, and
a lot of people have gone.
Parkins filled in for Coward when he was out of town, and he did an incredible job. And then Big Fox just grabbed him.
Coward still watching college football and commenting on it. Just checking, asking for a friend.
I really think that just Coward is a USC beat writer at this point, and a Sam Darnold disciple. I mean, he is taking a victory lap right now with how good Darnold is playing, because he's a USC guy, and apparently he just never gave up on it. Good for him, I guess.
I had this debate with somebody 2 days ago watching the Steelers meltdown. The Steelers need to stop being the Steelers. You know what? The Steelers are not a threat anymore.
They are.
And the Steelers are stuck because they're the Steelers. And they haven't had very many coaches. They haven't had much change. And they think, you know what? Let's just play defense, muck it up, and we'll run the ball.
Yeah.
Well, you don't run the ball very well. And you're wasting TJ Watt's career. Mike Tomlin is terrible at game clock management. The Steelers need to stop being the Steelers. They need to shake things up. But with that said, corny guy is back, and he has regressed. So Russell Wilson, who is corny to begin with, but had not been as corny of late, is back to being corny, and he has regressed on the field. And they are look at the line. That line between Baltimore and Pittsburgh continues to climb.
I don't blame it.
But what career would you rather have?
Ooh, great question.
Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson?
Is off the field included?
The whole thing.
Russ. He has Sierra. Aaron does not.
He's dating. Aaron Rodgers got a decent looking wife now.
Why?
She's a
no.
I thought they got married. I thought they got married. Didn't they get married or engaged? I thought he got engaged to a TV star.
McAfee?
Olivia Munn?
No.
You gotta check the board. No, he is dating someone, but it's more private now.
I thought they were.
No longer the Bucs owner's daughter.
He has never been married.
Okay, I thought they were. He had a fiance. Anyway, regardless, I would take
Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson.
Aaron Rodgers' career. I would take Aaron Rodgers' career, and the reason why is that Aaron Rodgers is solidly a Hall of Famer. For sure, first ballot, without a doubt, Hall of Famer. Okay, And
what a peculiar speech that's going to be in Canton.
Some would argue, and some argued that despite the fact that he only had one Super Bowl ring, that he's one of the greatest quarterbacks that they had ever seen play. And there are some people who, now this was more a couple of years ago, as opposed to what he's done with the Jets, who would have argued, despite the fact that he only had one ring, that they thought he was the greatest quarterback of all time. People have said that to me. People have said, watching Aaron Rodgers, I think that's what the greatest quarterback of all time looks like. I would rather have his career. With Russell Wilson, I think Russ does probably get into the Hall. He probably gets into the Hall of Fame, but it definitely is more of a stretch. I mean, it isn't a slam dunk like it is with Aaron Rodgers. It's not a slam dunk first ballot Hall of Fame.
No. I don't think Russ is a first ballot guy, but Russ will go into the Hall of Fame comfortably.
He'll go in. But Rodgers is, you could argue that he's a top 5 quarterback of all time. He's weird, and he's done a lot of questionable things in the media. And I don't think he's done either.
Not like that.
I mean, but who's going to take the risk of the baggage that comes with it? Because the baggage continues to take on more luggage.
It does. It gets worse and worse.
But if you looked around the NFL, is he an upgrade at 10 teams? Even at his age and the baggage that comes with it? Is he worth the risk? That's like the Tyreek Hill thing, who now is going to talk his way out of Miami, and he likes drama, and he'll end up staying in Miami. Are they worth the risk? Is Aaron Rodgers worth the risk for 1 year?
Is the juice worth the squeeze?
Like in Tennessee. Is he a bridge quarterback in Tennessee? Loves Nashville.
I think that if there was a stronger...
What if he stays in New York and he goes over and plays for the Giants?
Oh, that'd be funny.
And they get Travis Hunter.
If there was a stronger quarterback draft class, if there was a stronger quarterback draft class, I would say, I don't know how many teams would take him. The fact that there probably only are 2 first-round draft picks at quarterback right now, I could see a team like Tennessee saying, okay, we'll take one of these guys in the 2nd or 3rd round. We'll bring in Aaron for 1 year, and then we'll have that guy sit. Aaron will play. Aaron retires. Hopefully he has a nice farewell, and then this guy will come in. He will be our next quarterback. I think that would be a pretty darn good strategy, considering the fact that this quarterback draft class is weak. I just find it really funny that Aaron Rodgers is like, yeah, I'll mentor a guy. I'm willing to mentor a dude, because he did such a great job with Jordan Love, and he was so willing to do that when he had his actual opportunity for 3 years to mentor dude. He did a bang up job just being like, yeah, I'm here for Jordan. It definitely didn't cause a muck or cause any ruckus.
No. Hey, how about Tennessee? Odson's a Tennessee fan. He's one of the rare Tennessee fans that you'll find.
Good for them, man.
Last week, the Giants do him a favor, and then smoking Joe Milton, who might be one of the best backup quarterbacks that you could ever find to win yourself one game.
Oh, my Lord, dude.
He screws New England, gets Mayo fired.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Tennessee gets the number 1 pick because of the last 2 weeks of the season.
Man, they backdoored their way in there. Good for them. But it's almost as if, like, wouldn't you, if someone falls in love with Cam Ward, or someone falls in love with Shedeur Sanders, and they back up the truck for a team like Tennessee, wouldn't you take that deal? Wouldn't you? If they're 3 first.
First of all, Brian Callahan had a terrible year.
Yeah.
They didn't get better. No. They were bad all season long.
And they wanted to be competitive. They signed some free agents to be competitive.
How much are you locked into your franchise quarterback, Will Levis? Like, have you gone all in? Is he your guy? Because if not, then that answers your question. That's who's going to be your first pick.
But I don't know. If you are not solidly, if you're Tennessee and you are not sold that Cam is the guy or Shedeur is the guy, and someone is, I think opting for your little proposal of, hey, if it's not Rodgers, you can have Kirk Cousins also be that transition guy.
Jameis Winston?
I don't know if you can go a whole season with Jameis. I mean, that's an experience. I mean, that is more than just what's happening on the field. But I think that more than likely, yeah, they probably take Cam or Shedeur. But man, if someone is in love with them and they're willing to give you that Godfather Washington Redskins or Washington Commanders, Redskins at the time, now Commanders offer, if they're willing to do that with these guys, I would make the deal. I would make that deal. What do you think about that deal? Damn good deal. Damn good deal.
We'll see. Will Levis or Cam Ward?
I just don't know if Ward is for sure. Ward isn't the slam dunk. He's not like Jaden Daniels, or he's not like Caleb Williams.
Oh no, this is the 20. This could be the 22 class.
Yeah,
not the 23 class. Turns out pretty good.
I would even go as far to say that if Drake May was in this draft class, he would probably be the first overall pick.
I also think Drake May's development helped Jared Mayo get fired.
Oh yeah.
Evan Bland of the World Herald is going to stop by next. And this is, my apologies, big voice guy. And this is Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. Good morning. Happy New Year.
Hey, guys. Yeah, I don't know if we've exceeded the statute of limitations there, but Happy New Year.
Yeah, mine is the 7th. Larry David said it was over this weekend.
See, I mean, we just haven't had a chance to interact. Yes. So, I think you got to take that into account, too.
Yeah.
I think if I said Happy New Year to you in a week, like January 14th, there would be like a weird look. Like, oh, I guess it is January. I guess it is 2025. So I think this is, I'll give myself to the 8th of January. 8th of January.
Okay. Well, we're on the outer limit here, so let's enjoy this.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you know what, Evan? Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
This is great.
Now that we're all happy,
yeah.
Let's talk about negative stuff. No, just kidding. So we have a couple of days off before the semifinals, and it could end up being an all Big Ten final. So Northern football is back. You could have Michigan one year and the next year another Big Ten team win the national title, and Ohio State is in perfect position. But we have seen Indiana, SMU get into the tournament. We have seen a lot of all over the map takeaways. Is there a takeaway if you're a school like Nebraska that just went 7-6, but you have resources to compete, you have passion of a fan base to drive you, you play in a conference that gives you an edge to make your resume look better? Is there a takeaway from you watching the games and who's been playing in the playoff that could apply to Nebraska next year?
Well, I think the takeaway is you can flip things a lot quicker than any fans are used to having it done in the past. I mean, it used to always be, hey, you know, within, say, 2 or 3 years, if you had a head coach who would make you a contender, and then the conversation, if that wasn't the case, became, well, maybe you could sort of get there over the course of 3 or 4 recruiting classes, and maybe if you adjust things and things break just right, you could crack that upper echelon. And I think what Indiana showed was you can do that quicker. And certainly their circumstance was unique with a head coach who had a pretty good team, James Madison, who brought a lot of those guys over. And so you can't really follow that blueprint specifically. But I think we're continuing to see more parity in college football, and not necessarily more parity over 120 or 130 FBS teams, but more parity certainly within the power conferences, right? With the SEC, with the Big Ten, and maybe a couple other teams. But really, that's where a lot of that is concentrated. That's going to be even more emphasized with revenue sharing coming about this summer. So Nebraska is going to be one of those teams, and they're not going to be a ton of them, but they're going to be one of those teams with $20.5 million to spread out with players before you even dip into the NIL honeypot. And so I think we're already starting to see it right now with the success they're having in the portal. Like they're landing players and contending for players that they haven't really been in the mix for to this degree in the portal era. And I think a lot of that does have to do with resources and the recognition and acknowledgement that the Big Ten is one of the big two right now when it comes to access to the playoff and things of that nature. So yeah, I think there's hope there that you can turn things around quickly, that if you identify talent that you're bringing in from the portal, if you're smart with your roster management and the resources that you do have, you have the schedule, you have the support, you have all the other stuff that's always been there for a quicker turnaround. So yeah, I mean, I think 6, 7, and 6 can become something greater than that pretty quickly if you develop the guys that you have and you're able to make the changes that you want to make in terms of personnel and coaching staff as well.
Gary and I have talked about a lot how Nebraska is a developmental program, and that how Matt Rule runs this talent, runs who he brings in his program is, okay, what's your talent? What's your measurables? Like how good of an athlete are you? And then we're going to teach you football. But in this transfer portal in this year, they've brought in more non-Power 5 production than ever, right? I mean, they got Watson Trent, Jameer Khan, and Jalen George. Like they brought in dudes who haven't been playing Power 5 football, who don't necessarily have all those measurables, and they bring them into the program. My question to you is, Evan, do you think is it fair to say that Indiana's success and Kurt Signetti's philosophy of I just want to see what you did in the past and I want to see your production, do you think that might have worn off on Matt Rule, that Matt Rule might have looked at that and said, hey, that might not be a bad idea. That might not be a bad thing to do, to go in and get more guys with production in the non-Power 5 in the transfer portal?
I think it could factor in, but I also think back to what Matt Rule has said a number of times since he's been here, which is Nebraska needs to be the place where these guys go, where they used to go to North Dakota State or somewhere else, and those guys get drafted. He often talks about, like, hey, why are there these high-end NFL draft picks that went the FCS route? Mm-hmm. Nebraska needs to find a way to get those guys. And so I think there's a lot of that with what's going on. Andrew Marshall would be another example of that, as a guy from Idaho who they identified as, hey, come in and be in our secondary and fill a need as a return man as well. So it certainly Rule's approach with the measurables and the physical tests that you can put guys through to sort of verify what's going on, that's certainly part of it. But if you can combine that with proven production at the college football level. Like I think that's the sweet spot that Nebraska's trying to find. And so like some of these FCS guys that you're mentioning, I think that's where they are with that. Like you bring them in and they say, okay, you check the boxes of somebody that we would be interested in out of high school, but now you also have those statistics to mix into that. So again, they've been more in the mix for guys like that this year. It's more competitive than it's ever been. I think maybe the difference this year is other schools are sort of jumping into that Indiana sort of way of thinking, whereas maybe 2 or 3 years ago there would have been a more popular sort of way of thinking where you say, hey, I want the former 4-star, the former 5-star who's from a big time program. I think now there's it's more of a mainstream thought now that, hey, a lot of times these guys at lower levels, maybe they developed later, maybe they showed something, and now those guys are just as sought after as some of these former top recruits as well.
You covered football for a long time, and we'll cover football that will include a new special teams coordinator. Is special teams predicated on the coach or the players that are available to snap, hold, kick, punt, return, block, cover?
I mean, it's both, right? Like they had trouble with long snapping last year. And so like that, at some point, like if whoever the coach is, like you're putting a guy out there and at some point you have to say, your long snapper does need to do his job, right? Your kicker needs to hit the ball square. Your place kicker needs to put the ball between the uprights. So like you can coach technique and philosophy and mentality, but on game days, like you're kind of at the mercy of whatever your player does at that point. So, it's such a hand in hand or hand in glove sort of deal where you do need players who can come in and execute, and they've got that now, it seems, with a new long snapper, a new punter. We'll see if John Holt continues to ascend and develop the way that he did. But I just think, the best special teams, it's a culture, right? Like you think about Frank Beamer at Virginia Tech back in the day, Beamer ball, like that was a culture. Iowa, it's a culture. Like you have a good special teams coach there, but like that's an emphasis on what they do. And so I think it comes down to Matt Rule setting that standard and whatever that looks like. And so it'll be interesting to see what direction he goes with that next coordinator. But I do think it starts at the top, and the head coach defines what special teams is going to be. I mean, there are schools that aren't very good at it, that it's sort of an afterthought, and players go and they want to play offense or defense, and if you have to play special teams, okay. But then there are a lot of other places, and I think the best places, where there is an acknowledgement that those units, even though they don't have a ton of snaps, have a disproportionate effect on the outcome of a game. And so, we'll see how that turns for Matt Rule in Nebraska. It wasn't nearly good enough for these 2 years. I think the one thing you can say about Matt Rule is that he, as much as any coach that I can think of, he is very self-aware. And I think his ability to kind of look big picture and to sort of zoom out on things and acknowledge what needs to be changed is one of his strengths. And so to go and make that change now isn't surprising, given some of the other moves that he's made. And so what he does will be fascinating, but I do think whoever it is, it still is going to come down to the head coach setting that tone at the top, and we'll see if he's able to do that. He had strong special teams at Temple and Baylor in the past. It just hasn't worked out at Nebraska to this point. But I do think his track record would say he has an ability to get that thing right here probably sooner than later.
I know it's not over yet, but is there anything new that you've learned or anything that surprised you so far about this just current transfer portal cycle, whether it be a Nebraska thing or just a national takeaway?
I thought maybe there would have been more departures for Nebraska at this point, if I'm being honest. I think what we're seeing instead is a lot of guys that want to see this thing through. Maybe a lot of guys that don't necessarily want to leave as they're trying to get down to the 105 by August. Like I think there was an assumption that when the portal opened last month, you were going to see like 30 Huskers enter it right away. And you saw whatever the number is up to now. I think there's been 30 guys to this point, but there's still 25 or so over, somewhere in that range. And so I think that was sort of an expectation, was you'd see more departures early. We'll see how that shakes out in the spring window. And you're probably going to see some more guys depart quietly, or maybe just leave the sport, or whatever it might be. But beyond that, I think the other notable thing, just as compared even to last year, has been the how quickly the stakes have risen financially. I mean, a year or two ago, the numbers that guys were commanding are so much different than they are now, and rev share plays into that, and scarcity of roster positions and numbers play into that. But it's really surprising to see how quickly those numbers have risen. I'll be fascinated to see where the market sets. Like, I still don't feel like we have a sense on what the market's going to be long term for this. I don't know how sustainable some of the NIL contributions or NIL fundraising efforts are going to be. A lot of that's going to shift over to revenue sharing. You would think, sort of like the NFL, there's going to be a sort of a general model that a lot of teams use to value positions and things like that. But I think it's just a reminder, man, that this is such a fluid time in college athletics, college football right now, where there is really no such thing as normal. Everyone's trying to kind of figure it out on the fly, trying to find an edge, trying to find an inefficiency. And, until there's some sort of collective bargaining agreement and more uniform set of rules, I think this is just kind of where we are, where, you're every day is different. You're trying to survive in this world of perpetual free agency. And I think the teams that are most well-resourced and that are the most willing to think outside the box and think creatively are probably the ones that are going to have the most success.
Hey, years from now, somebody will be going through the media guide and they'll ask their father or their grandfather, hey, this guy on this receptions by Nebraska tight ends and career yards, this Thomas Fidone guy, it said he had 61 catches in the last 2 years, which were the most among pass catchers for Nebraska. Tell me about Thomas Fidone's career. It's an interesting one, Evan. Now that it's over, how would you describe Thomas Fidone's career at Nebraska from committing, which was a pretty big deal over in Council Bluffs, to quietly leaving Nebraska and moving forward in his football career?
You know who he reminds me of, Gary, in that sense? He kind of reminds me of Marlon Lucky. And the reason I say that is because he came in as a really highly touted recruit too, and he didn't live up to whatever those expectations were for a guy like that. But when you look back on the numbers and the production, you're like, you know what? He actually did pretty well at Nebraska. So I kind of think of Fidone in that light, where it's right. Like you mentioned, he's top 10 in receiving yards and receptions by a tight end in Nebraska history. But I think he's going to fall victim, at least in the short term, to memories of, he was the number one recruit and he didn't live up to that. And he had those 2 ACLs. And so, man, what could that have been like if he was healthy and if they had a different coordinator and if they didn't have the coaching changes. But he still, I think, had a pretty darn good career there. I mean, his ability to go up and high point of football and make a catch with a guy hanging on him, I think is as good as anyone Nebraska's had in recent years. His attitude is just infectious. He's a dude, man. Anyone who's been to Lewis Central or Missouri Valley, Iowa, where he's from, man, he's a guy who he's real and goes out and works. And he was a Husker fan growing up, had the motivation. He's a guy who could have quit multiple times and said, forget it. I don't want to go through another rehab session, but he's one of those guys who loved the game. Ultimately wasn't part of a lot of winning at Nebraska, but I don't think that was for lack of effort, for lack of ability. And so we'll see kind of where his career goes from here. You wish him the best of luck in the NFL, and if that's the route he chooses to go. But I think when you talk about just guys who embody what Nebraska is all about and wants its players to be all about, man, I put Thomas Fidone pretty high on that list.
Evan, as always, we appreciate it. Thank you. I'm sure it will not lack for news again this week. Great job. Welcome back, and we'll talk to you next Monday.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
See you, Evan. Happy New Year.
Evan Bland. Thomas Fidone. What if he was used in the Garrett Nelson role? Would his career have been different? Take out the injuries. But that role, instead of asking a guy to block, who probably that's not number one on his list that he would like to do.
Yeah, I just think for me, when I watched him, it was very evident that those knee injuries put a toll on him, but he's still an incredibly talented route runner, and it's hard to deny the fact that the guy can catch the ball and the guy can get open. It's just yards after catch and after that first contact, it definitely lacking. But I think for me, when I watch him with those knee injuries, it's definitely evident that he probably has a shelf life on how much football he has left with those injuries, and he needs to cash out as soon as he can, and I don't blame him at all.
He probably should have put his name in for the NFL last year because he had a good year.
Yeah.
But his fear of having that third major knee injury.
Man, I don't blame him.
And the clock is ticking.
It is.
Who knows if he'll make an NFL roster or get invited to camp, whatever. I mean, he'll work at it to train and train differently for the NFL.
Yeah.
But the fear of another injury and he'll never be able to achieve a dream. If he doesn't, I'll tell you one thing he'll be doing, either in Council Bluffs, Missouri Valley, Lincoln, or Omaha, there will be a Thomas Fidone tattoo shop that will open up when his football career is over.
Sure.
Bank on that. Jacob Bigelow going to join us next on 1620 The Zone. All right, time to talk some hoops. The hoops are good if you are rooting for red or black Nebraska. Blue Nebraska is off until they take on another blue team coming up on Saturday at Hinkle. They always play in the afternoon at Hinkle. It's like the sun's coming through the windows, and they always shoot so odd at Hinkle. That's when Creighton is back in action. Nebraska's back in action tomorrow night. Don't forget, Omaha, Kansas City, 8:05, Wednesday night, national television. Baxter Arena, huge game.
Massive game.
Huge. Jacob Bigelow joins us now. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Biggs.
Hey, fellas. How
Hey!
we doing? It's been a little bit. Good to hear from y'all.
Yeah, you know what? It has been a while. We've just been texting buddies. Now we're back to being radio buddies.
Hey, that's true for both of us.
Yeah,
I'm a better texting buddy with Jacob Bigelow than you are, Gary. I don't know if that's true. I'm just making bold statements here. What sweater are you wearing right now?
I've just got like a quarter zip on today. Nothing too
game day.
Too crazy.
Oh, so
nothing too crazy.
With our new body, we only wear sweaters on game day.
It's only a game day thing?
I pick the games for the sweaters.
Okay.
I was bullied into wearing a sweater to the Southern game because that was on Wilson Moore's birthday. So I was like, shout out Willie, but like you got to wear, I was bullied and you got to wear a sweater for Willie's birthday. I'm like, yeah, sure. But usually it's like big game. The original bit was big game means it's a sweater game.
Yeah.
Now I've been told if I don't do it for certain games, I'm a fraud. So I'm trying to not be a fraud. And there's so many lines that are crossed with it. It's kind of flown too close to the sun as a bit, but we're riding the line the rest of the season. And
Jimmy
some
Goldstein
games will be sweater games. Some games will be sweater games, and some games will not be.
Okay.
Yeah, we run in different circles. The last birthday party I went to, they asked people to come dressed as a character from Big Lebowski.
Nice.
They ask you to come wearing a sweater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All
different friend circles.
Let's talk about the Big Ten. First, let me start with this, and then it's going to lead me into we're going to tier some of the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota is 0-3. They play tonight at the Barn against Ohio State. They are one of the slowest teams to watch in college basketball and just their pace. Ben Johnson is under fire. They could easily be 0-4. How good is the Minnesota job? And if you were the athletic director at Minnesota, would you put Fred Hoiberg on that list?
Ooh.
I think that the Minnesota job is one of the, especially in basketball, is one of the jobs where they are like counting down the days until revenue sharing. I think that like, how there's always like the countdown clock in the Michigan football facilities, like days until we play Ohio State. Like there's a countdown clock in Minneapolis. It's like days until revenue sharing. So we don't have to like try to do this NIL thing the way we're doing it.
They've been impacted.
Yeah, they've definitely been impacted roster construction wise going into this season, years past. So that's what they're counting down to. I don't know if I'd put Fred Hoiberg on that list. I don't think I genuinely, like when I've heard Fred Hoiberg say that this is his last stop coaching wise, I think he means that, especially, in the college ranks. So, he may be on the list, but I don't think there'd be anything for Nebraska fans to worry about.
Yeah, I don't think it would be reciprocal, but we know that he does like the Minneapolis area and he has a connection. If I was an athletic director, I would put him on the list, but I'm with you. I don't know that it would be reciprocal, but there's also other challenges of the building they play in, so on and so forth at Minnesota. But you're in a state that is producing Power 5 basketball talent. Now let's talk about the Big Ten. So,
one more thing on the Minnesota job.
Sure.
Like people forget that they promised Tubby Smith a new arena when Tubby Smith was the head coach at Minnesota, and how many coaches to go with that? So if that doesn't tell you about the current state of Minnesota basketball, I mean, that's a pretty good summation of it.
All right, let's do some tiering here of the Big Ten because Illinois goes out to the Pacific Northwest. They go 2-0. Oregon beats Maryland yesterday. We have Rutgers, Wisconsin, which is an interesting game tonight.
Yeah.
And then that Ohio State, Minnesota game. Let's do some tiers here. What tier would Nebraska be in the current Big Ten, couple of weeks into the conference slate? And then the tier that they're not in, who's in the tier above them?
Well, I think tier one, I'm just going to go like top to bottom. My brain is mush because it's a Monday morning and plenty of other things. So forgive me if I forget some teams, but I think Illinois, after the weekend that they had out west, I think they are in tier one. I think they're joined there by a team that lost by 30 plus to them on Thursday in Oregon, but I think Oregon is still a tier 1 Big Ten team. I think they're a class above, the mid-pack. Also in that first tier, I said Illinois, I said Oregon. Next in there would probably, this is where I wonder if there needs to be a dividing line or not, because I think Illinois is right now they're the top team in the conference, but I don't think they're like a Death Star team like the last couple of years that we've seen, like with Purdue. But to answer, I'll forget about listing it out like team by team. I think Nebraska is like high tier 3, low tier 2, depending on who you ask, because those are going to be two very crowded, tiers. In the Big Ten, there's the basement tier that is, Minnesota, Washington, USC, and then Rutgers is kind of flirting with being in the basement tier, despite having, the two 5-star lottery picks. They're kind of flirting with being in the basement tier, and then everything above that, there isn't much separation in the middle of the Big Ten. Still, I think Nebraska definitely, made a statement to some people over the weekend with the win against UCLA. UCLA is also, down arguably their best guard, and definitely a, post defensive presence in Will Kyle, on Saturday. Not trying to take anything away from the win by Nebraska. It's still an impressive win, but UCLA was, missing some pieces, and they're still, I think UCLA at full strength is close to, that first tier. And there's still a lot. It's definitely still a mess in the middle in Big Ten basketball.
Jacob, I think it's safe to say at this point that Fred Hoiberg's kind of hit it out of the park once again with this transfer portal class that he's been able to bring in, and there's a plethora of guys that we can talk about. So I'll open the floor to you. Who do you think's made the biggest impact on the court so far from the Huskers from that transfer portal bag, I guess?
Yeah, I know people would default to Connor Essegian. Only he and the defensive attention that he draws could be 0 for 6 from 3 and still be plus. I think it was plus 24 plus minus on Saturday against UCLA. Even when he was 0 for 6 from 3 and his only points were free throws. So I think that's the easy answer. I think Andrew Morgan has not been talked about nearly enough. I know a lot of his stats aren't like jumping off the page in a lot of these games, but I think just the presence that he brings, the scrappiness that he's got. I saw a tweet that someone was watching the game on Fox said, "I didn't know Danny McBride played basketball for Nebraska." Now I can't unsee that comparison. But I think Andrew Morgan, his energy and just the role that he knows he has to play out there, and how he's been a star in that role, and I think he's kind of been the unsung guy out of the transfer portal class, and that hasn't been due to the outbursts from 3 that we've seen from Connor Essegian.
How come Eastbound and Down isn't coming back? I thought it was. It's been off the air for like 10 years, 10, 11 years. I thought they were rebooting that back up. What happened to Eastbound and Down? I liked it.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to Eastbound and Down. McBride went on quite a run there where he finished Eastbound and Down. He did that Vice Principal show that was on for 2 years.
That was
almost
a good
nobody
show.
Watched, and then obviously Gemstones now. It kind of feels like he's just playing the same character on every show he's on. I don't have a problem with that at all. I enjoy some Danny McBride-isms, but I don't know what happened to Eastbound and Down. I started that show, but I never finished it.
Hey, once upon a time, I believed in destiny, but now I say, F that B. Everything I have in this life, I earned myself. There's no cosmic luck. There are other quotes that you cannot quote on morning radio. So we're feeling it. I tell you, I love that show. I am the man who has the ball. I am the man who can throw it. I am faster than. So that is why I am better than everyone in the world. That's what I say when I'm out there playing slow pitch. If you look at Ken Palm this morning and you do the metrics and you go to the defensive ratings, there is only one team out of the Big Ten that is in the top 10 in the country in defense. Hold on, whatever you're doing, brace yourself. That's Nebraska. Why has Nebraska? And this is over the course. This isn't just recent. This is over the course of about 2+ years. But this particular group, Why is this particular group so good defensively?
I mean, they are all. I mean, their communication, their rotations. I mean, that's been the most impressive thing with, especially, they're just always. I mean, from 90% of the time, there have been some times where it looks like they're sleepwalking, but these big games, these last couple years, like when Nebraska's defense is on fire and they are flying around and the rotations look the way they've looked against, like the Creighton game earlier this year, like the Purdue game last year. I mean, they're just like these defensive, like, I mean, for lack of a better term, these like defensive magnum opus, like master classes that they put on. And when it looks really good, you're just like, holy cow. Like they are like, they're just locked in, 94 feet, 40 minutes, all the coaching cliches. But I mean, I think that's a testament to, Nate Lenzer, Adam Howard, and, especially Nate Lenzer and, his defensive prowess, his defensive game planning. That's a credit and a testament to them. And then it helps that they've got a roster that's all a bunch of, for the most part, outside of, Bert Berkey and some of the guys, couple other guys, it's all a bunch of old heads, a bunch of old dudes who are just like, we're here to win. We're like, this is my last ride of, college basketball. We're here to win. We're here to do whatever we got to do. And they're, willing to, lock in on the defensive end, even when their coach will just openly say, we're not a pretty team. We're a gritty, grimy, dirty team. And they've accepted that as their identity. And when they proved it against UCLA on Saturday.
Jacob, you're a college basketball encyclopedia. Have you ever seen anyone change their coaching philosophy and just how they coach a team and how they build a roster in the manner in which Fred Hoiberg has over the last 2.5 seasons?
Oh no! I mean, I can't say that I have it all. I mean, if you want to go in the way of that machine, or get the DeLorean up to 88 miles an hour, and go back to when Fred Hoiberg was hired here, and you're gonna, say to people back then, hey, in a few years, UCLA is going to be in the Big Ten, and Mick Cronin is going to be their coach, and Fred Hoiberg is going to out Mick Cronin in a Big Ten basketball game in Lincoln. That's a conference game. Like all those things, would sound shocking in the spring of 2019. But I think the most shocking thought would be Fred Hoiberg basketball out Mick Cronin basketball. And we saw that up close and personal on those of us that were in the building on Saturday. That was my thought kind of going into that game. I'm like, this is what Nebraska wants their identity to be. Well, look what's across from them. The biggest blue blood in college hoops that has made that their identity, whether it's in the Pac-12 or now in year one in the Big Ten, that they've played the scrappy, street fight, style of basketball that, has been Mick Cronin's identity as long as he's been a head coach. And the evolution of Fred Hoiberg's Nebraska basketball. I mean, there's plenty to say about it, but I think I'm not saying it achieved its final form, but it was like a video game boss fight, right? Like you gotta like there are these milestones of like boss fights, and it's like, oh, this is really your identity. Well, now you got to beat Mick Cronin at his own game, and they did it. So,
hey, I want to go back to something you just said because wait a minute, Jacob. Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
I wish I had that kind of talent.
Well played.
I am a sucker for that movie. That is on my movie Mount Rushmore. But no, I wish I had that kind of talent.
Movie Mount Rushmore. My goodness, Back to the Future. That's a bold take, Mr. Big. How did Doc and Marty become friends? We never find that out. What's your theory on that?
No, yeah, we do. We never found out how they become friends. Yeah, there are, like, don't get me wrong, Matt, there are a lot of questions about that movie. And the reason it's on my movie Mount Rushmore is just because of like the role it had in my childhood. I'm nostalgic. I'm corny as all hell.
You also went by Calvin Klein at school?
No.
And you hate manure.
No. If I ever.
And you're a big skateboarder.
Oh yeah, you know me. I know nothing says shred like me.
Well, there's also nobody calls you chicken, but there are people that are telling me today because there's a huge game tomorrow night at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Ken Palm has no faith in Nebraska. Ken Palm thinks Nebraska is going to lose 6 of their next 8, that they're going to go 2 in the queue this week in Iowa City and on Sunday at Mackey Arena. But I got friends of mine that are diehard Iowa fans that want Nebraska to win. And I'm like, are you okay? Is there stuff? Is things rough at home? They're like, I want Nebraska to win tomorrow night so that Fran gets fired.
Wow.
It's going to be really sleepy in there because they're not drawn very well. Iowa just got blasted by Wisconsin, where they didn't have a lot of interest in playing defense. I'm going to give you another nugget. Iowa hasn't been to the Sweet 16 since 2000, but yet they produce All-Americans. 97 teams have been to the Sweet 16, including Creighton, since Iowa was last in the Sweet 16. People are like, Fran, you got to go. Fran keeps hanging around. Tomorrow night seems like a huge game for both Nebraska and Iowa. Do you agree? And the other part of this, how does Nebraska avoid with a thud after a big victory like they had on Saturday? Last year they beat Purdue, went to Iowa City, bam. They go to Iowa City tomorrow night.
Yeah, it is definitely a big game for both teams. I definitely have heard similar sentiment from the Iowa fans, Iowa alums in my life as well when it comes to the state of their men's basketball program. It's kind of insane to think that Fran got hired at Iowa the same year Mac got hired at Creighton, and just the difference in how those arcs trajectories have gone throughout their time at their respective jobs. But it is a huge game, and Nebraska is expecting. They're expecting Iowa's best shot, especially and the coming off of the result against Wisconsin for those guys, to the point where I think it was John Blackwell who just openly said in Wisconsin's post-game press conference, "Yeah, we knew they weren't going to be playing much defense." So that just, I think that tells you a lot about the current state of Iowa men's hoops. I mean, they've got a couple pretty good players. I mean, and 2 of them share the same last name. Another common theme with Fran McCaffrey Iowa team brothers who are pretty good at basketball. But I mean, I'm expecting Nebraska to get Iowa's best shot. I mean, it's another rivalry game. They had their big rivalry game earlier this year where they had a lead and lost it. So it's a rivalry game. It will not have much juice, I don't think. Tuesday night, late night. I think it's a Peacock game too, right? Yep. So I don't think there's going to be much of any juice in there. So that makes it the coaching cliche. Bring your own juice, and I think that kind of plays into Nebraska's favor, but we'll see, because the road has been Jekyll and Hyde for Nebraska these last couple of weeks.
And that's why I keep saying it's, for some, it's like a do you believe game, because Nebraska, it wasn't until towards the end of last year that they won some games on the road, and you were playing, the last one was a beleaguered Michigan team. They got to win games on the road in the Big Ten, and tomorrow night seems like a prime opportunity just to remind people that this is a team that feels like an 8-9 seed right now in the NCAA tournament, because they might be a slight favorite tomorrow.
That wouldn't surprise me. Coming off the big win and how they've been playing, and then Iowa coming off their loss, that wouldn't surprise me in a bit. And like you said, that arena hasn't been that big of a factor there in terms of atmosphere.
Just don't tell Mick Cronin that. Hey, Biggs, we appreciate it as always. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I'll leave with this hot take.
I'll
leave with a hot take. The road game that I like Nebraska's chances in the most this week is not tomorrow night. But I appreciate you.
Whoa! Stop just a moment here. That's it. You just don't do that. Like, you don't flame the show. Do that on like Happer's show. Okay, flame the show and then just hang up. Purdue has won 25 in a row at home.
I know, and that's the only arena in the Big Ten where Nebraska has not won a road game in their time in the conference.
Wow.
But I think their physicality compared to Purdue's guards, I think the teams that have given Purdue the most issues this year are the teams that get physical in the backcourt and have a size advantage. Nebraska will have I'm not saying they will win, but I kind of like that matchup more.
You saying Purdue won't score a point
on Friday? They won't
I'm
score a
not.
point?
I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go that far. I would. I do need to make a dumb bet just to get you to let me buy you lunch at some point. But no, I won't. I won't.
Notre
go that
Dame plays
far,
this week.
No.
But I like the matchup against Purdue more than the matchup against Iowa.
All right.
That may sound insane, but people forget this is my part-time job. People forget that.
Not sure what that means, but on YouTube, go watch the music video "Physical" from Olivia Newton-John.
Might have to. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time like
Thank
always.
you.
Have a good rest of the show. Good rest of the week.
Thank you.
He's gonna go watch
he
Grease now.
He is from your school of thought.
Yep, it's a bold take. Someone's got to make them, though. Someone's got to say it.
You two need to have a bet together on something.
I don't know. I still got it. We got to figure out when I'm taking you guys to lunch. So
I've already made the reservation.
Beautiful.
11:30. We have a reservation for 4.
At Block
Probably will
16.
be a 5th. No, we're going to a place where it's dark and they have a salad bar.
Nice.
dang it.
Well, you know what? They have this thing called hazing with rookies in sports.
It's a rookie dinner
that they pick up the tab.
Is that what you're telling me? I have my rookie dinner.
Yeah. I think it might be 5 or 6. There are other people that have not yet confirmed that they would like to
ride
meet you.
mobile, the van.
They'd like to meet
I
you.
got it. It's going to be okay. I got to eat the crow, and I will. I look forward to it. It'll be a good lunch.
Hey, last time I was there, we kept the bill for the 4 of us with some drinks and food. We kept it under $400.
You'll
be
fine
good.
by me. I'll
You'll
be
good.
okay.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You want to make another bet
Nope.
before the week
No,
gets
I don't.
started? Something about
No, I
Notre
don't.
Dame?
Nope. I'm okay. I'm staying away from
What
Notre
about
Dame.
Texas?
I'm going to pick and choose my spots.
What about Texas?
I'm going to pick and
What
choose
about
my
Ohio
spots.
State?
I got to look at it. Let me look at the book. Let me call my bookie.
Ohio State, Penn State for the national championship?
All
Big Ten?
I'll think about it. We'll make another
That wouldn't
bet.
be an outside the box
We'll make another bet very soon. I just got to pick and choose my spots. Got to be very careful with. I've learned here at 1620 very quickly. Check, really check the lines and really watch your mouth.
That's what it says right on the door. It's like you touch it like the Notre Dame when they go on the field.
Do
Play
yourself
like a
before you
champion.
do others.
Yes. That's something. If you've not taken anything away from the show today, that's what I've given to all of you. Do yourself and then do others.
Get that tattooed. Get that tattooed on the back.
Usually it's take care of me and then you can take care of yourself. We're back with more Gary and Matt after this. All right, welcome back in, Gary and Matt. 9:30 on a Monday. If you missed any of the conversation here, real fake, off the wall, spot on. When Matt cussed earlier in the show, it's up on the radio replay page, 1620thezone.com.
When did I cuss?
It's a tease. You're not supposed to say
people didn't hear it. Jimmy cut it off after you swore.
Dang it.
Mm-hmm.
Already the dump button. What, it took me not even I guess 2 weeks. Took me 3 weeks to hit the dump button.
You guys checked out, so first of all, I think one of the bigger winners of the bowl season, which it's popular to say you don't like the bowl games, but you watch them. I caught you. Was Minnesota winning the other night?
Yeah.
PJ Fleck wins, man. I think he's reached his ceiling in Minnesota, but the guy wins, and guys like playing for him, and they play hard for him, and they've won 8 straight bowl games, and he leaned into the whole Mayo Bowl, which
I liked it.
Which, people in the middle of the summer might not be able to tell you who played in the Pop-Tarts Bowl or the Mayo Bowl, but they'll be able to tell you what happened. So PJ Fleck aside, have you guys checked out how much mayo costs?
Yeah, it's a lot. I actually had to buy Hellman's mayo recently, and I was shocked by the price as well.
So Duke's mayo, for a little tube, $5.69.
Yeah, no, that's what Hellman's cost was like in the $4.99.
I am so glad I do not eat mayonnaise.
Same.
I've been on a bit of a health kick, so I haven't had as much mayo as I used to, but I think my favorite sandwich is
strike me as a big mayo guy.
Is literally just
a BLT, throw a little mayo on there.
I love white bread, salami, a lot of mayo, white bread. I love just a mayo salami sandwich. Call me disgusting, but it's just I love mayo, which is why I had to stop eating it. It was a very hard thing to give up, but Chunky Matt was becoming a thing. It was bad. So I'll say this though.
Mayo in your coffee?
So no. I saw him get dumped with mayo.
Mm-hmm.
Mayo doesn't have that liquidy of a consistency. Like, do they put a little something in that? Do they water down the mayo? Like, I feel like with the Duke's Mayo Bowl, when you're putting the thing over, there should be another guy who's like tapping on the top, who's like trying to get the mayo out.
I don't know. I of course, do not have a lot of expertise in the mayo industry.
I mean, mayo is something where you got to, to like really get it going, unless you got the squirt bottle. But if you're like,
well, if you have it like in a big tub, maybe it rolls out a little bit better.
Yeah. You gotta push out some mayo. So it was a little too liquidy for me. I wonder what they did. I want to know what the consistency is. I've never had Duke's Mayo before.
I don't know what the difference is.
Neither
Jimmy,
do I.
are you a mayo guy?
No, God no. But I would try Duke's Mayo, not the way those dudes did it the other night. I mean, I've had
you
munchies.
Want to dump it on your head?
No.
You don't want Flavor Flav dumping it on you?
I'd take that, but
How great was that?
Ed
Bull has leaned into not even caring about what happens on the field.
Including the broadcast, which was terrible, but I
the
laughed at them
was
eating.
Unhinged comments. The guy, I don't know who was
Ron
broadcasting
Franklin's
it.
rolling over in his grave.
But at one point, one of them said, PJ Fleck's going to smell like the Sigma Chi or Arizona State Sigma Chi house. I was like, first off, how do you know what Sigma Chi at Arizona State smells like? Number
Matt
two,
Berry was in it.
What the hell does Arizona State have to do with this game? It was such a random thing to say.
Maybe it was going to lead into the fact that Larry Eustace was back at Iowa State this past weekend.
Ooh, yes, I saw that, honoring those mean teams they had at the start of the century.
Crockpot Clint says Baker's has Dukes for significantly cheaper.
Ooh.
If you're in the Dukes Mayo business. Andrew says Duke said they don't water down the mayo. They stir it for 30 minutes straight to get it with that consistency.
Okay.
I'd like to be the intern that's their gig.
Yeah.
Pay well.
You don't get a full-time gig out of having that as an intern?
I wonder, do they get an electric like thing that does it, or do they give him like a paddle and he's just like he's churning butter, just going like this, just trying to get so he can dump nicely on PJ's just beautiful. He puts a little pomade on, he does some dusting on that forehead, right? I mean, that thing is shiny. It's a shiny forehead.
I would try Duke's though, even though I'm not Team Mayo. I would try it.
I wonder what is the difference between Duke's and
It has a
Hellman's?
tang, a little kick to it.
I
The
don't know
people
if
on
I
the stream
want
can
tang
help
in
you
my
out.
mayo. Do you like tang? Are you a tang guy?
I mean, not literally. Tang.
When I was a little kid, I liked tang.
You like tang?
Yeah.
I like Jerome Tang.
I don't like mayo, so
Do you like lime? Are you a lime guy?
In a drink?
In everything.
Depends.
Yeah, I love vinegar.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I love vinegar. That's I love acidity. I can't really say that word, but acidity. But I'm a fan.
I got another question about football this weekend.
Give it to me.
So there's a lot of controversy about ESPN not showing at the Sugar Bowl the moment of silence and the national anthem. And then Fox usually does those really well, those like events of special remembrances and the anthem. So they showed it yesterday. I think the NFL made it known to their TV partners that they would like some stuff shown. Where in the world did Craig T. Nelson come that he was singing the anthem at the Packer game yesterday? Coach was singing the anthem.
Hayden Fox?
Hayden Fox was singing the anthem at Lambeau yesterday.
Orlando Breakers' former great coach? The head screaming eagle himself.
I didn't know that Craig T. Nelson sang the national anthem, but before the Packer game yesterday, he sang the anthem. And what was it here in Omaha? They showed the anthem, I think, from the Houston, Tennessee game, but that's not the game we were getting.
Yeah. Green Bay was in the
And then we
teens.
went to Green Bay, Chicago. But yeah, Craig T. Nelson sang the anthem yesterday at Lambeau.
They should have won by 100.
He's promoting an upcoming green and gold movie.
Oh,
so they let him
yes,
sing the anthem?
Yes.
Yes, I have heard of
Oh,
this.
come on.
Let's see what green and gold
Fuzzy
movie.
Thurston was not
Green and
available.
gold 2025.
Like, it was okay. I mean, it wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It wasn't home run derby-ish.
Craig T. Nelson.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't see that. Yeah, he's promoting a movie. Good for him.
You moved the headstones, but you didn't move the bodies.
Apparently, he did a great job at it. There was a lot of people who were very happy with his performance, and I was very happy with the result on the field. So you know what? Maybe Craig T. Nelson should sing the national anthem at Lambeau more often. Not a fake game. Don't tell me about it.
Soldier Field.
Dude, good on singing the anthem in those conditions.
He said it was
most
cold.
of the time. He
That
didn't even talk.
That was the first quote. The first quote in this article was, he was like, "It was awesome, but good gosh, was it cold?" Would you, if you were able to throw out the first pitch at Wrigley, but it was like -2 degrees, like it's an April day, and they're like, "Gary, you get to throw out the first pitch, but
Yes.
it's
The
-2.
answer
Would
is
you
yes.
do it?"
The answer is yes.
Is that one of the very few things that you would do in -2 degree weather? I mean, what's
As long as the wind's not blowing, I don't have a problem with cold.
that's a good point.
It's dry heat. You don't even feel it.
This will make Jets fans really happy. There's a lot of it is Black Monday, by the way. Doug Peterson is out at Jacksonville, no surprise. The Giants are retaining the GM and the head coach.
Wow.
The Jets have requested an interview with Arthur Smith, the former Falcon coach who was the OC with the Steelers.
And this just in, right now, Ian Rappaport, they've also requested an interview with Bills OC Joe Brady.
Wow.
Former OC for the LSU Tigers and former OC for Matt Rule's Carolina Panthers.
Fired by Matt Rule.
Yes.
Your Bears have requested Ben Johnson.
Yes, please.
Anthony Weaver, the defensive coordinator with the Dolphins, and Aaron Glenn.
Yeah. Here's my
Mike McCarthy, lifetime contract.
Here's my two things. I just want one of these two. I want one of Ben Johnson or Cliff Kingsbury. And if we don't get either of those guys, just give me someone who's coached before. Just give me someone.
Pete Carroll, come on down,
Pete Carroll,
Mike
Vrabel.
McCarthy.
I will take Mike McCarthy. The guy wins games.
So
I don't win a lot of games. I don't win a lot. I'm not a winner. In fact, if you were to look down in my history, I'm pretty much a loser. Okay.
Whoa.
And so I would like a guy like Mike McCarthy, who's won a lot of games before, to coach my team. So for one time, I don't care at this point. I don't really care about the playoffs. I just want to see one go. I just want to win more than 8 games 2 years in a row. That's all I want. I want to be 9-8 back-to-back years. That's all I'm asking for.
I'm just asking that, you know what? I mean, everybody stays healthy this weekend and we get the best team to come to Arrowhead. It does appear that Zach Taylor is going to be retained in Cincinnati.
He should be.
They have I don't know, man.
He wrote the ship.
Joe Burrow is, but okay, so you give him credit, but you also have to.
He wasted a great Joe Burrow season. That's great.
Joe Burrow is going down the path of the Carson Palmer.
Yeah, man. Shoot. They should have won that.
And you know
Super
what?
Bowl.
I mean, I think all these Bengal fans that have jumped into my mentions, I'm going to introduce you to the SEC because you play nothing but hypothetical games, all right?
Yeah.
Don't lose to New England in the first week. New England fired their head coach, Bengal fan. You know what? I don't care about you. Be better. It has nothing to do with us. We did what we had to do. You know what? It means nothing to us, and we got out as a winner in Denver yesterday. Nobody got injured. We're ready to go. We got some more time off, and we'll wait next week to play probably the Chargers.
I'm not going to have any pity for a Bengals team that they did this to themselves. They scored 34 points against the Ravens. They lost to the Ravens. Okay. Yeah. They scored 27 points against the Chargers. They lost to the Chargers. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like, it's on them. Play better defense. Don't come and complain to me that, they scored 38 points against Baltimore, and they lost that game.
How come Bengal fans are not upset at Buffalo, the Rams, or the Eagles?
You're just always going to be, you're the Death Star.
Starters.
Hey, I got a crazy idea. Don't give up 38 points to the Washington Commanders.
I'm surprised that Zach Taylor looks like he's going to be retained.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation.
I think in-game, Zach Taylor is not very good. I think there's a lot of football coaches that have struggles with clock and game management. And I think Zach Taylor, some of his decisions in game have hurt the Bengals in key situations. I just love for 3 straight years that the Chiefs have knocked the Bengals out of the postseason. I love that.
I just think,
but I'm surprised that because Joe Burrow, the clock is ticking, and he just had a MVP type year, but his comments are almost matching what Carson Palmer said when he talked his way out of Cincinnati.
What I think. Okay, so we talk about turning the ship around, right? And the common phrase, they're playing for their coach. They're playing for their coach. When I watch Cincinnati, I don't think Cincinnati was necessarily playing for Zach Taylor. I think Cincinnati was playing for Joe Burrow, because I think that entire team collectively, both on the offense and the defensive end, recognized how great of a year that young man was having and how incredible he was playing. And I think it's one of those things where you have a quarterback playing at that level. It's rare. You cannot waste one of those seasons. And so I think at the end of the season, they picked it up because they're like, man, like this guy's the dude. Like, we're going to have a shot because of him in the playoffs if we get there. Too little, too late. Too little, too late. And it's like the spark. I mean, look, a big part of the coach's job, more so in the end of the season, is the beginning of the season. Because a team themselves, with how they're playing, they can turn themselves around in the middle of the year and get going. But do you know who gets you ready for week 1, for week 2, for the preparation of that season, for every game that matters? It's your head coach. Yeah. And they were not ready. And so I think because they weren't ready and it ended up costing them, it was an indictment on the job that Taylor and his staff did. At the same time, it's hard to look at the things that he's accomplished and say, well, we're going to let him go. Because Zach Taylor's a dude who, if he wouldn't get a job this year, he'd probably get a job next year as a head coach.
I mean, he gets credit and gets some blame for their season. A couple other things here on coaching. It was also fun to watch yesterday how many people were upset because their team was winning.
Yeah. That was, dude, I've never seen anything like it with New England. They didn't wait until today. It was like 25 minutes after the game. They go, see you, Gerard. Thanks for nothing.
Hey, $130 million in cap space, number 4 pick, Drake May. Not a bad job.
Not at all.
Look at the line. Look up what the line between Texas and Ohio State is right now.
I'll go on. I'll use my CBS.
They are played in Dallas,
they
where
play
apparently,
on Thursday,
according
right?
to Friday.
Friday.
They are playing in Dallas, where apparently, according to Ohio State social media, there are cacti.
Texas is a +6 underdog right now.
So a 6-point underdog.
6-point underdog.
See if that changes, because Bovada has just put up on the board the favorite to get the Jacksonville job ahead of Ben Johnson, Steve Sarkisian.
Really?
Do it.
Really?
Yep. So Bovada has odds on the next Jacksonville coach, either Steve Sarkisian or Ben Johnson.
Does he have Sark have a connection there to Jacksonville that I'm not aware of?
I don't think he has a connection, but he does have a connection to the NFL.
Okay.
I mean, he was with the Falcons before he came back to college football.
It's pretty obvious that I would much rather have the Texas Longhorns job than the Jacksonville Jaguars job.
Especially with Arch Manning. So who is a better quarterback to inherit next year, Arch Manning or Trevor Lawrence?
I'd take Arch.
Because I think I've not dabbled in the way obnoxious too early preseason polls, but I got to imagine Texas might be the preseason number 1 team next year.
Do you know Lawrence? And I'm not saying direct 100% comparison here, okay? That he reminds me of, and this is a cross-sport thing, but they're a little similar. Lawrence reminds me a little bit of Christian Laettner. And the fact that Laettner was a winner. All Laettner did was win. He was incredible. He was a top prospect. He was insane.
With you here.
And then he goes to Minnesota, a known loser who had never had success, and he does not play well. And the 1 year
he was Pooh Richardson, playing in the Metrodome.
And on 1 year, the 1 year he was on a winning team in Portland. The 1 year he was on a winning team in Portland, he was an all-star. With Lawrence, it's the same thing. That dude, he lost what? 3 times from in high school and college in that span, and then he goes to a known loser in Jacksonville who's never had that success, and he does not match the level at which he was in college because he's not used to being a loser. And I think that's wearing down on him a little bit, like it was on
a
late
playoff game.
They did. But I mean,
he was
it's
stuck
not
with Urban Meyer.
But we're talking about a guy who was like, man, he was made to play quarterback. He's the ultimate prospect. He's the next. He's as good of a prospect since Peyton Manning, since Andrew Luck, and he has not lived up to those expectations. And he has not played at a level where Joe Burrow's team playing bad, it does not affect him. It does not. He supersedes that. He still plays well despite of that. Trevor Lawrence has it. That has not been the case.
Yeah, I never had Trevor Lawrence up near the top in the tiers. He's probably in the middle to bottom of the 3rd or the 4th tier. But he has been, first of all, he hadn't stayed healthy. And he got stuck with Urban Meyer. And they have a bad GM. They retained so they fired Doug Peterson. They retained their GM. People are outraged in Jacksonville.
But my thing is, though, it's not as if he's had terrible weapons. ETN's been a fine running back. They got Calvin Ridley there, or they had him there for a little bit. Christian Kirk wasn't a bad wide receiver. I think that Evan Ingram has had a resurgence there, and he's been a really good tight end. I mean, I'm not acting as if he's playing with, the 2020 Tampa Bay Buccaneers with all that talent and all that core and all the, this insane talent around him. But it's not like he's had nothing. He's had ample opportunity to have good years.
Man, Trent Baalke, the GM in Jacksonville.
I mean,
every year they say he's going to get fired.
He's got, I don't know, Saad Khan. I don't know what. I know what type of operation he's running over there. I mean, it's a money operation. It's not a wins operation. It's very similar to what they're running in Chicago.
You know what? You guys need to pick a playoff team. You want to pick mine?
I'll pick the Eagles.
You want to join the run?
I'll pick the Eagles.
All right.
My best friend's an Eagles fan. I root for the last couple of years. I've rooted for the Eagles winning the playoffs. I'll stick with it.
House money that opened up at 3.5 against Green Bay. Unless Jalen Hurts is out.
Love might be out.
Green Bay is.
Love got hurt.
Green Bay is limp.
Yeah, Joey's sad today. I'm surprised there was even traffic.
That's true.
Let's put it in the can.
All right, we'll put a wrap on the Monday show after this in 1620 The Zone. I'd enjoy some Big Ten hoops tonight. Also, you got North Dakota State and Montana State playing down in Frisco, Texas.
Let's go Bison.
Craig Bohl, coaching tree, not bad. Both of the head coaches were assistants under Craig Bohl. Craig Bohl had a nice little football career post-Nebraska. I'd say Frank Solich had a better coaching tree post-Nebraska as well. But that's the FCS championship game. You'll recognize some familiar names and faces. A couple of emails to wrap up the show. This is from Ian. Earlier we were talking about the dude that takes his shirt off at Nebraska basketball games. He's a famous fan named Greg Hobza from Crete High School. He's former Crete head basketball coach.
Oh.
Sits in 216. I said 214. I'm over a couple. But yeah, he sits there right there in the front row.
I love Pinnacle Bank Arena. I think it's a great place to watch basketball.
We did talk about this the other day.
You know, there are people that did not want that built.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, they had fought it for a while.
I remember.
I think I've only known Lincoln with it, and I think it's an incredible venue that's been awesome to go to basketball games in, women's and men's basketball games. It's been awesome to go to concerts in. Seriously, I've been to a lot of those stadiums, and I've been around continental U.S. I've gone to plenty. I've always said that I love those smaller stadiums with that big-time feel, and like PBA is a smaller stadium, but it's got a big time feel to it for sure. And I think it's an awesome place to do anything in.
And it was put in the perfect spot in downtown Lincoln.
It was. And then the rail yard's picking up, man. Rail yard's been, I know it took a step back after COVID, but I think that it's turning around. It's been a great place to hang out before a game. I mean, it's, I think I'm going to go to the Mavericks game on Wednesday. I think I'll end up going to that. So I'm looking forward to that. It'll be my first Mavericks game.
Chris writes in about Joe Brady, who is on the list to be interviewed, the current Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator, fired by Matt Rule in Carolina. Chris says, specifically looking at Joe Brady's success before and after Matt Rule's tenure, it doesn't bode well for Matt Rule. That LSU offense was the greatest offense in the history of college football. Now he's up for head coaching gigs given his latest OC success. I mean, I'm not saying it was Matt Rule's fault, but I wouldn't call it crazy if he did.
I would say it had way more to do with what the quarterback situation was at the time, as opposed to what Matt Rule did. When he was in LSU, he had Joe Burrow. He had the Heisman Trophy winner with what will probably go down as one of the greatest wide receiving corps in college football history, with Jamar Chase, with Justin Jefferson, and Trey Palmer all on that team. And you had Thaddeus Moss, Randy Moss's son, playing tight end. I'm pretty sure Lair was their running back too, right? I mean, they had one hell of an offense. And then you go to look at him in Buffalo, Josh Allen is probably going to be, if not the MVP, the runner-up for MVP at this point.
Matt Rule was coaching Sam Darnold of last night in Carolina.
Yeah.
But on that point, Ed Foley was a pretty good special teams coach in Carolina.
Yeah.
Special teams in Nebraska is such a crapshoot with coaches that have coached.
Do you think it has to do with the wind in Memorial? I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. Does it have? I'm not saying it has everything to do with the wind in Memorial. I'm just saying Ed Foley talked about how weird the wind can get there.
So it's Giant Stadium?
I mean, he's talked about how it gets swirling. I'm not saying it's that fault. I'm just saying that might be a factor. It might be a weird wind.
Do they play all their games at home?
No, they don't. No, they don't.
One of the road games they played. So, neighbor of mine got back from New York City, went to the Pinstripe Bowl.
Yeah.
He estimates there were 2,000 people at the game.
Wow.
It did look like it on TV.
He said him and his buddy sat in 8 different sections during the game. Like they could have whole sections to themselves.
Wow. 2,000?
He said, I bet there were 2,000 people there. And I said, there's no way.
There's no way.
But
it did look empty as heck. All these bowl games have looked empty as heck. You called it, man. You talked about it. You're like, dude, these are built for TV. They're not built for you to
TV ratings are good. People, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Look at the playoff games.
They're not even full.
Mm-hmm. And now you're asking Penn State and Notre Dame on short notice to go to Miami?
And Dallas they're expecting almost 10 inches of snow in Dallas.
But at least they have UT is playing close.
Mm-hmm.
But Ohio State has a large fan, alumni base. But Penn State, Notre Dame in Miami to fill that stadium? It's not like the locals are going to take over.
It's crazy, though. I mean, it's a great argument that people have talked about. It's a lot to ask fans to travel to all these neutral site games and pay for all these hotels and all these plane rides and everything. It's a lot of money to watch your team play throughout the college football playoff. They got to make the quarterfinals at campuses.
Now, I would like some confirmation. He was pretty passionate that there were a little over 2,000 people at Yankee Stadium for the Pinstripe Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't they announced, 32,000?
No,
something
way.
like
there
that.
wasn't 31,000 people. There wasn't 30. There was. I don't know if there was 2,000 people there, but there wasn't.
He said we had a great time. He goes, we drank the Nebraska fans drank Yankee Stadium out of beer.
All right.
He goes, I could move around wherever I wanted to go.
Can you imagine?
He said,
only 2,000 people there, and they drank them out of beer.
He said, I bet there were 2,000 people there. He goes, no Boston College fans were there. It was all Nebraska fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would love to hear from people whether or not that. I mean, I would say I would go ahead and say there was probably like 10,000 people there.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. You can count.
Yeah,
you're in that world and you do really well in business, but I don't think you can count fans. All right, crossover's coming up next. We're back in tomorrow with Nebraska and Iowa basketball coming up tomorrow night that we'll get into. For Jimmy, for Matt, I'm Gary and Matt, 1620 The Zone.